Welcome one and welcome all. It's a bittersweet day here at the Upsurge Contenders League. It's our last day. It's the finals. I'm Audio. Joining me, as always, is Nightstar. And before we get into the matchup tonight, we have some house cleaning to do. We have some things that need to be gone over. Theraforce, unfortunately, got disqualified coming up to this finals match. So MG Eclipse, who were going to play the third place match, are being moved up to take their spot. They're getting a miracle second chance at the finals. Also, CBT, because they were a little bit late to today's match, have lost their one ban so far. Could be more. Stay tuned. But Nightstar, now that that's out of the way, it's finals, baby. We made it all the way here.
Yeah, we have indeed at last made it to the last series. And, it was a little bit disappointing hearing that Surfforce wouldn't be competing in this last match. But you know what? I hope that for our last series, we get to send the season off with still a banger of a series.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for too. And scratching my head thinking about how that's going to happen because we haven't seen CBT yet this season, which is the craziest thing I think about this matchup is that we have MG Eclipse, who we've seen, multiple games of now, going up against who on paper we keep saying like who's going to beat CBT. They're undefeated. They're so good, but we haven't even seen them play. We just kind of had their record to look at, the fact that they've been slaughtering every opponent that they're up against. And now it's they get a bit of a easier opponent than initially thought in MG Eclipse because of Seraphorce dropping out.
Yeah, and this matchup, just some background information on this for the side of CBT is the fact that they haven't dropped a series, but they have dropped maps. So it's not like they've been unbeatable per se, but this is a squad that is very, very difficult to draft against because when you go into draft, they have so many roster swaps available to them. Then they also have the ability to just play various champions in every single role. And even when you see the lineup, they can still move into different lanes even then. So it's such a difficult team to draft when it comes to these games. It really comes down to, if you're MG Eclipse, you just got to stick to your own game. Play your style, your champions, make sure you get what you want, and whatever shows up on the other side, that's them. You just have to focus on yourself here.
I'm sure MG Eclipse, when they found out they were going against CBT, probably went back, did some prep, and we're just as confused as we were because you look through the regular season, and I just want to highlight one example. Good Sir in the top lane, up until the playoffs, he was playing things like Gnar, Aatrox, Darius, pretty typical bruiser / tanks in the top lane. Get to semi-finals, and he swaps to the mid lane and plays Trist, Yone, and Sion in 4 games. They bring in a brand new top laner. So it's just been that complete willingness to throw the game plan out the window and surprise your opponents with something new that I think is going to make today's matchup so interesting. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that MG Eclipse will also have some aces up their sleeve so that it's not just a 3-0 blowout.
Yeah, and for the side of MG Eclipse, it really just comes down to the key component is just going to be Jinjin, as we are pulled out of draft. But Jinjin has been the player that's been the key to their team. The one win they were able to get in the previous series against Seraphorce, Jinjin was allowed to play the game. In the other 3, no such thing ever occurred. So it starts with being able to get out of lane phases without too big of a difference, and then they get to play their game. And they've shown that when they get to 5v5, they have very nice team fight setups. It's just getting to that point.
Yeah. And I almost feel like the last time that we saw this team up against Seraphorce, those results might have been a little bit skewed because Seraphorce, I just as a reminder, brought in more players this season than any other team, probably all the teams combined. It was just a revolving door of new players, and one of them in that series was Chad Jungies, and he was just mopping the floor with Summoner's Rifts. And you said it yourself, Jin, if he didn't get to play the game, MG Eclipse looked lost. Maybe this time he'll have a bit of a better time. I don't necessarily know if CBT's jungler has that same level of dominance and just bloodthirst as Chad Jungies.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, of course, to keep note of. But Shelf Elf has been very standard when it comes to his picks. So at least in that regard, they don't have to deal with any curveball jungle picks to deal with. He's played all the standard Udyr, Olaf,
yeah, but remember, those are the picks that gave Jin a hard time. It was just, it depends on how well you're able to pilot them. We'll see what I think the first pick here for CBT is going to be pretty telling to see where they throw that priority. MG Eclipse have taken Seraphine off the table. They're not even going to give them the chance to break that out.
Yeah, Seraphine definitely a very difficult champion to play against. And I mean, for the side of CBT, I believe they've lost all their bans. So we're going to be kind of just waiting things out through this ban phase. It is going to take a little bit longer because of the fact we have to wait out the timer. But for MG Eclipse, it really just comes down to getting rid of the really frustrating meta champions like the Seraphine, the Hecarim, of course, as well. And then I would even suggest banning away one more, depending on or banning one more jungler. I should be more specific. Just depending on how comfortable they are with Jin right now.
We'll see what the final ban here for MG Eclipse is going to be. And for CBT's side, I guess if you think about it, losing all of your bans is almost better than only losing like one or two, because this way there's just an abundance of powerful picks left up on the table. If you still have to ban away like one or two picks, then MG Eclipse, they don't really have to worry. They can ban out like whatever the super powerful first picks are, and then whatever you grab, they get to respond with two more of their own. But this way there's a lot on the table. Zed will be the final ban from MG. We'll see what CBT wants to go for. There's still a lot of jungle picks up on the table.
Yeah, so here, you mentioned that it's nice that there aren't that many power picks banned away, but that also goes the same for MG Eclipse because they are on the red side. They're going to be able to get two on their first rotation. So for CBT, while they get themselves one, you're almost guaranteed to give up two. Now it really just MG Eclipse, what do they decide to opt for with those power picks? Because again, there's a lot of variety coming out from the side of CBT. So these picks really have to be flexible, I would say.
MG Eclipse taking their time with this one, hovering that Volibear, going to be locked in. Volibear receiving some really nice buffs on this patch. This could be Jin in the jungle, could be but the clear got a lot healthier. You've been saying not quite faster, the damage isn't really upped that much, but Jin is going to be able to go into those skirmishes feeling pretty good with this pick, as it looks like the Jinx rather is going to be the ADC pick here.
Yeah, and I really like the Jinx pick just because it gives you scaling, it gives you team fighting, and it also, you can play around it or you can play for it. So it gives you decent flexibility. Of course, if you invest resources into it and then she gets ahead, then those mid-game team fights are absolutely terrifying at 2 items. If you want to play away from it, that's okay too. Here, we're going to get the Heimerdinger here. Ooh. This is a pick that they've played numerous times, mostly in the bot lane, but I would assume that they can also move it into one of the solo lanes if need be.
Yeah, and throwback to the time that Riot just completely killed the marksman role. Sad times, as Heimerdinger became one of the best picks in the bottom lane. And in that time, the big advantage of this pick is that you have a much better laning phase. You do kind of auto push the wave. It's kind of hard to freeze a little bit, but you have a lot more kill pressure at 6 than any marksman is ever going to have, with the access to your ultimate and just the mage itemization being a bit more front loaded to that one item. So I do like the Heimerdinger, like you said, and the Lucian comes through to keep up that damage profile. They're still going to have a marksman, still going to have objective taking and physical damage.
Yeah, and the Lucian, of course, definitely a flex pick in that regard here. Cry Now has played a lot of that mid champion pool up in that top side. So while it's most likely going to go into the hands of Cry Now, where he goes is still undecided. Now, on the flip side, MG Eclipse, the Orianna is not a pick you want to pick into a Lucian. So now I would assume Cry Now probably going into that mid lane to at least match this Orianna, and that's a scary prospect. But that at the very least, you're looking at an Orianna Volibear combination that still has pretty solid kill potential when it comes to lane or when it comes to these smaller skirmishes.
Yeah, surprising to me that Orianna actually came out as the response to the Lucian. MG Eclipse not even really at a risk of it getting banned away. Remember, you don't have to pick it up in the first rotation because red side does get that first pick in second round. And there's no bans here from CBT. So we'll have to just keep our eye on Heppo then. If he's able to weather that storm, yeah, the team fight looks great for MG Eclipse. And throwing an Orianna in the mix, having that Volibear as a ball delivery system sounds phenomenal. But it doesn't matter if she's 3,000 gold down. And that's going to be the goal here for Cry Now. Lulu and Sion banned away. Sion, one of those flex picks that we saw coming out from CBT. Not this time. He's broken,
yeah, and
man.
Lulu coming out. Yeah. Lulu coming out, I would assume, is because that the side of CBT are playing Tiaras in that bottom lane. I believe Tiaras is the only person who is really full on support out of this roster. Everyone else kind of bounces around it. Her role is pretty much the enchanter supports. So Lulu, one of the most powerful ones. It could still be something like a Janna, like a Yuumi as well here, as it looks like MGE, they're going to try and deny it away by locking it in right here. So the Volibear, Yuumi, Orianna, this vehicle is really what they're trying to play around for the side of MG Eclipse.
Yeah. Now, we don't see a whole ton of Yuumi, Nightstar, and usually when we do, it's paired around one of these go fast kind of bruisers like the Udyr, the Olaf, usually champions that have, you know, a lot of sticking power. Looking at these MG Eclipse side, the Volibear, I mean, it feels like kind of a budget way of doing the same thing, but the other two carries so far, the Jinx and Orianna, very immobile. For some reason, this piece of the puzzle isn't quite fitting for me.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting in trying to keep track of this in team fights, because it's very easy for Jinjin to get too far ahead of his squad because he's going to have the Yuumi speed up, the Orianna speed up, and if you don't get a reset, then Jinx can't ever follow up onto you. So we have to really keep track of these fight lines when it comes to that first and second team fight for MG Eclipse. If those don't go very well when it comes to spacing, then that definitely spells disaster moving forward into that game when it comes to that third and fourth one. But when you add a Wukong in, that might be enough to really help balance the diving power on the squad, and that can hopefully tie things together and keep, well, not only get that extra burst damage to help the Jinx out, but it really just sets things up. It really helps connect to the Jinx.
Yeah. MG Eclipse, they've got a through and through team fight comp set up for them. We've got 2 meatballs in the front. We've got 2 carries in the back. We've got a Yuumi to keep everybody topped off. The only problem now is just the fact that they're going to have to make it to that state. They have to weather this storm. They have to make it to those items because CBT have a whole butt ton of damage drafted into their comp, and they have 3 winning lanes across the board with a Udyr to boot. This is kind of the dream scenario pre 20 minutes if you are CBT.
Yeah, and we saw this kind of draft coming out from Seraforce in the last series here, where they played really nice lanes to supplement the Udyr, and the Udyr really just got to run rampant into the jungle. So I expect CBT to play super aggressive when it comes to these jungle invades, put a lot of pressure onto Jinjin, and for MJ Eclipse, they have to really play aggressive, especially in this top side, to at least give some lane to play around here for this Volibear, because Wukong can win the level 1 against Gnar, and that might get him enough space and room to be able to allow Volibear to interact in the game.
Yeah. Another, I guess, cautionary point for MG Eclipse is I want to make sure that Heppo and LOL New were paying attention to their positioning in these fights, because if you look at kind of how their comp wants to play the game, it is very front to back, but Jinjin and Baby Girls really want to be disrupting the enemy team, right? They don't want to be staying back, and there's not a lot of, I'd say, peel other than just the Orianna shield and pure healing from Yuumi. And Udyr, Lucian, Gnar, that is free access onto the back line, or at least, pretty easy access. So MG Eclipse, they just have to be so careful. I do think that their comp, although it is a bit more standard, it feels a bit higher on the execution, because there's a lot of threats that they have to worry about. It doesn't feel like they quite have the right tools to deal with them, which means they're going to have to outplay them instead.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, Volibear is looking to just run and engage, and it's going to be very easy for him to get too far ahead of his carries, and in that regard, that leaves that backline vulnerable. But with this Wukong pick, of course, you're going to add a little bit extra damage to that dive potential, and perhaps that's enough to get that Jinx that first reset with her rocket. And if that happens, then the Jinx is all of a sudden with her front line being able to contribute into these team fights. And on the flip side for CBT, they just have a really good composition to deal with run at you, because you have a Heimerdinger. The ultimate grenades is just so damn good to disengage very sticky situations, along with the Sona ultimate. And if you're going to run into him, a Mega Gnar is just so easy to land on multiple members.
The jungle is going to be such a dangerous place this game, Nightstar. Both these teams work so well around choke points. You've got the Shockwave, you've got the Heimerdinger, the Crescendo, the Gnar ultimate. Like, my goodness, these team fights, it does feel like whoever is on the front foot, the engaging foot, does have a serious edge in these fights. If you can land that 3-man Shockwave or land that 3-man Gnar ultimate, there's enough on both sides to follow up on those that it could just mean a one fight if you're able to connect onto key targets. Yeah,
and you bring up another good point in the fact that these choke points, the choke point control is immense from both of these teams, which means that getting to objectives first is the name of the game, because if you're able to deny the choke point, that involves you hitting the river faster than your opponents, and then you're able to control those choke points and really suffocate them out of team fights. However, I would say the more difficult part is going to be getting this Wukong. If he's not ahead, he has to come in from flank angles, and if they're put in that position, then things slowly become more and more difficult.
Yeah, and we did see, thankfully, Gnar's early game tuned down just a smidge, at least in the mini form, getting that reduction, 10 damage on his W at all ranks. And doesn't sound that impactful, but just keep in mind. Yeah, also keep in mind that the rank 1 damage was 10 to begin with. It is now 0, which means until you put a second point into that W, you're not really getting much out of it, which Gnar doesn't really do until like level 9-ish. We are on to Summoner's Rift for these two teams. Now, the gold on the red side, MG don't start with extra gold. Just a little bit of a bug. It'll fix once the gold ticks over that amount.
Hey, I'll take extra gold. And
right? I'll take an extra 500. Now, is it split between all of the members? And is that enough to get anything? Or does one person get an extra 500?
Yeah, that's the real question.
Because that is an ADC main. I think it should be LOL Noob that gets it.
It's just a free first blood.
More than a first blood. 100 more.
You know what? For MGE, I would much prefer that gold onto baby girls because that Gnar can definitely take over the lane if he gets extra 500. But I mean, this is all theoretical because we're not going to see actually a bonus 500 unless if they just randomly ran it in. But we are going to see wards come out here, at least for the side of MGE. You get the resets, you get now the oracles bought up here. So everything really, a nice quiet start is probably what MGE want, at least in this first game.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that CBT didn't go for something earlier because the level 1 isn't fantastic for the side of MGE, not when you compare it alongside the likes of an Udyr and a Lucian.
Exactly.
No such shenanigans. Jungler is going to be starting on the opposite sides of the map, which means we shouldn't see much interaction from them. But there is a nice river ward from Heppo that will spot out that scuttle if Shelf decides to just sit on the top side.
Yeah, Shelf Elf. If he is going to hang out top side, that ward will kind of catch him if he goes for some sort of cheese gank. Of course, it should fade by the time he actually clears that full top side. But it looks like he's going to try and end bot lane here. Make sure that this mage, I guess, mage-ish sort of bot lane doesn't get hard punished. Because they are, of course, going to be shoving out pretty consistently with those Heimerdinger turrets.
Yeah, and I think this works to the benefit of both these teams. Jin gets to go top side to cover for Baby Girls, who's in a weak lane. And then, like you said, they're going to get the push, but Heimer Sona doesn't really have a lot of kill threat in the early levels. It's not until you hit the 6 and you hit those first kind of items for the mages that they really have a gap. So both junglers will just be kind of working to cover rather than make anything proactive happen here. And it'll be full clears on both sides.
Yeah, pretty quiet start here, but I mean, Ari in this mid lane, this is exactly what Lucian does in this lane. And this is also a lane that, remember, MGE, they opted into it because they did pick the Orianna after they saw kind of the face-up pick from this Lucian. You knew that the Heimerdinger wasn't going into the mid lane, and good sir, while he has played a couple of mid lane champions, you know that Cry now is the one to really man alive these assassin style champions.
Yeah. However, these assassin champions, they do require gold to get going, and CBT, it's okay for them to wait a little bit, you know, considering their comp and how they want to get really their first items, because that's when they'll be strongest. But I just want to make sure that they don't wait too long. We see this trap a lot here in the UCL, where teams are feeling confident, they pick the aggressive composition, and they just don't really do much with it. And then the scaling and the team fight tends to run them over a little bit. We'll see if CBT are privy to those same pitfalls. They are getting some slight just straight up CS advantages so far, specifically in that mid lane. Cry now almost up to a 10. So that is another way of just stomping the lane if you just farm better.
Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of pressure that Lucian is going to throw down onto you. Now, for the side of MGE, again, you're mostly fine with a lot of things that are happening.
Straight 100 HP, still gets hit even though he goes to the clone. Baby goes one more auto.
No, it's not.
Blood. Oh my goodness! It must have been that armor stacked up from the stone skin. I don't know how Baby Girls turned that around.
Yeah, I think it really came down to the passive interaction, and I believe he popped Biscuit late in that fight as well. Of course, Biscuit gives you more HP the lower you are, as it gives missing health and mana. So that came in massive for the Wukong in that regard, and also just having a little bit more damage.
I want to say that might have been a kill for Good Sir on last patch. Because that W that hit proc, it looked like it was there. He had lined that third auto attack up, but it left Baby Girls with like single-digit HP. That feels honestly terrible. When you're playing any champion that has just gotten nerfed, and you get into one of those super close scenarios like that, it's just a righto please moment.
Yeah, a little unfortunate, but at the same time, it works out brilliantly for MGE. This is exactly what they want to see. And now they're going to follow up with another gank. Good sir, if he dies here, that could be it.
He has the flash. Had the Mega Gnar building up, but Baby Girl's is level
That's
6
perfect.
now, so
Yeah.
respecting it. No sums right after the teleport.
Yeah,
We'll have to be very careful.
That's actually massive because of the fact now that Gnar is zoned off of the minions. That means this Wukong gets to get a lot of value because he also was able to get a buy-in, which means he himself has plenty of items to work with for an all-in, and it's just really perfect early game here coming out from MG Eclipse. Exactly what I kind of lined out here for them in that early game.
Yeah, they've lost one of those avenues. Thankfully, they still have a couple to play through. Cry now is up 10 CS, still over Heppo. That lead hasn't been growing any. But I, again, am keeping my eyes on the clock for when those first items start to come through. Because I think on the Mythic, CBT are just going to be straight up stronger than MGE. And they can start to really pick up a lot of those objectives. And they've had bot prio all game long. The CS is even, but just chatting and tiaras have been pushed up. You can easily transfer that into the first 2 dragons. And bam, turn that into a forced fight around the soul. That's how you end the game with one of these comps.
Yeah, for sure. And CBT able to get that first one is going to help, especially since it is that Cloud. And Cloud on Heimerdinger is just really something else because of how low the cooldown on his ultimate is already. When you add a little bit extra ability haste, that just makes it that much better. Not to mention, he's already going to be building a fair amount in his kit. I'm excited
also,
to see
if you can get the Cloud Soul on Heimerdinger, he already gets a movement speed buff when he's near his
around
turrets,
yep.
but the extra 10 on top of it just makes it ridiculously fast. Try pairing up with a Janna and you'll just get like Earth Jin levels of move speed.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. What I'm really excited to see here is what kind of
Ooh, Cullen coming out.
Okay.
Okay, I got a little bit too excited. Heppo only took about 4 of those shots.
Still some nice little chip damage, and if you are, of course, the Lucian, you don't really care about holding on to it. You're just using it to try and force out the Orianna as much as possible out of lane, force her to reset, and slowly accumulate more CS advantage in that regard. And however, it's not going to be really that much, at least at this moment. And really it comes down to, well, is he able to find that sort of trade again in 2 minutes or a minute and a half when Dragon's about to come back up? And then if you force the Orianna out at that point in the game, then you get another free Dragon. Now, good sir, about to run into a Jinjin.
Actually, a nice little move there from good sir. If he hadn't traded onto Volibear, could have been an advanced spot, but now he's found half his HP.
Wait.
They do have Heppo here, but it's a flash forward. Run stun, job done. Cry now will foot the bill as he gets a kill for CBT back on the board.
Yeah, very easy as an executed kill coming out from CBT. And for MG, it definitely hurts because that is the Orianna who's already a little bit far behind, trying to help her team out and finds herself caught out of position and hard punished. Very well done there. And now at this point in the game for MG, this mid lane feels so it's about trying to pull either the bot lane swapping into the mid lane, or you need your Wukong to make a roam down into that mid lane to get the kill onto Lucian, because that is really how they're going to be able to get access to this next dragon if they want to contest it. If they don't want to contest it, different thing altogether.
Why wouldn't you want to contest it? You want to contest this, CBT. Trust me. But I actually was just about to comment on the fact that I thought MGE was doing a good job slowing down the pace of this game and keeping things even until that play up in the top side happened. Because going up to it, it actually seemed like MGE had the first move with Heppo roaming up from the mid lane, but stepping out of position there, it luckily didn't turn into anything more than just the kill. Jinjin, that's the wrong brusher. Wait, no, is it the right one? Shelf Elf getting ganked in his own jungle, man. That's just rude. Krynal's going to throw out the culling,
Uh-oh.
but Jin should be able to block that one up. And all of a
They're both
sudden,
half HP, though.
just chatting. They need
beautiful.
this river prio, and they get the kill.
Yeah, and that actually stops or slows down the side of MGE when it comes to just going straight onto this dragon. You have the turrets now placed down from just chatting. It's perfect placement here. You have both of these teleports about to come up for the top laners, and this is actually just perfect timing for just a 5v5. We're most likely going to see a 5v5 happen right when both of these two champions respawn again. So Udyr's about to rejoin up with the team. For Baby Girls, he's actually used the ultimate.
Pretty big cooldown. Trades out about half of Good Sir's health, gets him down to
That's
a
not good enough.
Yeah, he does chunk out the mini Gnar, but now that ultimate not available, and MGE have to give up this second Drake.
Yeah, a bit of a mistake there, but it could also just be the fact that MGE, they were already committed to peeling off and conceding that one, and that's why Baby Girls just goes for the all-in, because the cooldown doesn't matter at that point then, and just trying to force out the Gnar. Now Gnar will be forced to recall, and not actually going to burn the teleport, even though he is going to have the extra freedom now. And now we're kind of waiting for maybe a Rift Herald play. I don't know. Of course, for the side of CBT, it'd be nice if they get it, because then they can really start pushing their advantages. But for the side of MG, you're only 500 down. This is like perfect position for this composition. You don't necessarily have to force things, but if you get a free one like here, then it's okay. Although,
looking for the turn. Teleport going to be channeled immediately from Cry now, and Jin will have to run away. Good Sir has Mega, and he throws Jin back into the fray. Kill will be picked up by the Gnar. And that's the Rift Herald going over. CBT, they smelt the blood in the water, and they will get their prize.
Yeah, and I just mentioned, if you don't want to force the Rift Herald play, and right when I said that, they were just on it.
I mean, it makes sense from the side of MGE. That is your strong side of the map. Hey Baby Girls is the first player in the game to get to a mythic item. So if you can get that Herald and get him down there in time, perhaps it looks good. Heppo! Oh my god, the culling that time is just lasered onto him, and he will get solo killed. As I was saying, though, I want to finish that point real quick. They just weren't in position. You know, it was Good Sir who was able to find that chunk first. They were the first on the teleport. And in CBT, I've already loved their play around objectives. They are so willing to jump into those objective fights, and they have won them because they're there first.
Yeah, I want to just also mention the fact that there's 3 teleports available on CBT. So whenever you make a cross-map play like that for the side of MG, you have to be fully cognizant of what teleports are available, because they can't just have teleports come
Tiaras is in trouble. Bit of a weird animation there from Jin, but he gets the kill. And those turrets are just tickling him. He'll walk out fine.
Yeah, but Jinx dies on the back end because of those Heimer turrets. Ended up falling to a turret all the way in the back, and it ends up just being a 1-for-1 trade. So you invest your jungler to go down and gank, but in the end, your AD carry is the one to fall, and the AD carry doesn't even get the money from that kill. So it's still a massive win for CBT as they trade out a support for an AD carry, and the Heimer still survives to be able to push this lane.
Yeah, and Volibear showing in the bot side gives Cry Now and Good Sir here the confidence to walk forward to push Heppo out of the mid lane, out of the jungle. Now let's see what they can do with it. 3-man strong, sort of walking around. Yeah, CBT kind of have control over the whole map. Even this play right here is a result of that bot side mistake. Now Jin, he's going to die again.
Yeah, and now, I mean, here, you look and compare these bot lanes. The Heimerdinger can just 1v2 because it is going to be a Yuumi. He has also great disengage tools. And on the flip side, your Yuumi's not exactly going to be looking to roam because of she does that, then you're kind of all by yourself. And you do need to find someone, of course, to jump onto and ride the train of. And that means right now, for the time being, Stringy Bird is just stuck in this bottom lane.
Yeah, and I mean this Wukong, sure, he's ahead. He's got the stride breaker. He's doing with this itemization, he's gonna be doing a bit more damage than usual. And so sorry, Divine Sunderer, my bad. Thank you, producer. But Stringy Bird, like it's probably his best option. But again, it's not a Olaf, it's not a Hecarim, it's not one of these high damage front lines that you can jump on and just turn them into this unkillable monster. MGE do feel like they need a lot more time to get going. And I'm starting to see why CBT has been so dominant thus far. I've been really impressed with their macro. Just chatting now, they're going to find a kill way too easy for the Heimerdinger to solo burst out that Jinx.
Yeah, and again, the one item differences are just vastly different. You get the Kraken Slayer, but ideally Jinx wants to hit 2 items before she starts really fighting. With the Heimerdinger, you're perfectly fine fighting on 1 item. And it's just a power spike difference in that case. Not to mention, you just have so many more tools in the kit than the Jinx, which is pretty much just raw damage.
Right now, is he even going to steal away the Gromp? Actually, no, I think Jin Jin, he smited that one away there. But just that smite, I mean, Dragon's up.
Yep,
so
dragon.
Right there, there's nothing they can do to contest it. Not that they really would have anyway. CBT were there first and had the position. MGE are getting seriously starved of resources right now. Shelfelf is 40 CS over Jin Jin.
Yeah, I mean, Jin Jin, again, this is kind of the thing we mentioned for MGE. If Jin Jin's able to somewhat play the game, then things look a little bit better. Fortunately for them, he is able to play the game, just not as much of the game as Shelfelf. And now the issue is the rest of the team is just so far behind. I don't even think that Volibear, with how far he is in comparison to the rest of his team, I don't think he's going to be able to really have an impact as this game progresses, just because of the fact that, well, this Udyr just does a lot of those things better right now. And just the fact that there is so much damage already built up onto that Lucian, onto this Heimerdinger. And it really just boils down to this Wukong finding the perfect ultimate onto the backline, being able to kill at least one of them, and then be able to have the rest of the team join up.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen right now, though, because just chatting, I mean, it's going to be impossible to blow that Heimerdinger up. I'm sure he'll be working towards the Zanyas in the near future, which makes him a complete non-option. That kind of leaves Cry now, or maybe the Sona. The Sona is always a good option with how squishy she is, but even that Lucian can be tough to lock down. And I don't even know if Baby Girls lands everything, if it's even going to matter. Like, I don't think he has enough damage, 20 CS up with a single kill to his name, to actually 100-0 burst any of these carries. And if he doesn't, Chiara's is going to heal them right back up to full. So options feel very limited for MGE. They sort of feel resigned to only looking for picks where they do have the numbers advantage.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused by the fact that we see Divine Sunderer here, because of the fact that the only way this Wukong is going to get value is going to be able to get access onto the backline, being able to stick onto these targets. And for that, you really need that stride breaker to be able to get that extra little hop, to get that slow.
Shelfelf.
Now Heppo
set his sides on Heppo, and if that Udyr wants to catch you, he will. He even donates the kill over to the Lucian. Good jungler.
Yep, just kind of
and the Raptors too, I guess.
Yeah, but he also
unintentional
denies.
Gift.
So, I mean, at this point, CBT just have a full run of the map. They have a 6,000 gold lead. They have 3 dragons. All they have to do is wait another 2 minutes, and then they should have control over that mountain soul as well. And at that point in the game, the Wukong doesn't have enough damage to punch through really any of this mountain soul shield, or that extra mountain soul buff of just having the extra resistances. And for MGE, it just becomes an even more difficult task to then get that first reset for the Jinx to then catch people.
Here we go. MGE are making a play of their own. They're
Oh,
tired
no,
of being
Heppo.
tossed around, and they found a lot of damage onto the Lucian. Jin gets the shutdown. 800 gold into his pocket, and finally, MGE are able to pull off something.
Yeah, and it really just came down to having to actually invest quite a few resources. They even had to invest the Volbear ultimate because of the fact that, well, Heppo wasn't in range to land the shockwave on
This
Jin.
is gutsy. Good Sir has the
They're
mega
collapsing.
ultimate. Now MGE, they have
There's
a
the
5v4. They
fight. Oh,
know
this is
they have
perfect.
to force the fight. They found just chatting, and they found the choke point. But the
Wait,
mega
Heimerdinger.
ultimate into the wall is huge for Good Sir. He cleaned up everybody along with just chatting. We'll finally go
2v2.
down to double kill for baby girls. The Yuumi and the Wukong against the Gnar.
They have to fight.
And the Udyr run, stun. Good Sir hits the boomerang blade, looking for the damage onto the Wukong, but he's trading back so much. Shelf Elf has to flash away. He's stacking up the hyper. One more auto will do it. And the Yuumi is almost guaranteed.
Bonus.
Cherry on top.
The free sampler to go with the entree right there, and that will be a delayed ace, but more importantly, it's going to be an inhib falling down right when Dragon has spawned, so they're going to be able to play around these super minions, and if the side of MGE don't immediately rush for this Dragon to deny it, it becomes really, really difficult for them to kill this Dragon because, I mean, for the side of CBT, they can just wait for supers to push down mid.
Yeah, and MGE felt like their Hail Mary, their last shot. They are pretty far out of this game now, 7,000 gold. I like to use the 10,000 mark as the game over metric, but you know, in reality, we're already at the point where CBT would have to make multiple massive mistakes. And I mean, you saw the thought process, right? MGE actually got to the Baron first. They had a man advantage, and they went to fight in the choke. But that choke, we talked about how dangerous it is for both sides, and they hit their shockwave, but Good Sir hit his Gnar ultimate. And I think with as far ahead as CBT is, they only need to hit one. And MGE need to hit like all of their ultimates.
Yeah,
So,
I don't.
now it's the Baron being started up for
here it
CBT
is.
though, and Good Sir is here once again. Two-man ultimate into the wall, and MGE are already dismantled. Their ADC's running for the hills. And gonna just be an anchor point for the Yuumi. Try to get her out alive. You can't run far from an Udyr though. Teleport in. There is nothing you can do. Enjoy your final moments. LOL noob and Stringy Bird by extension. Because CBT have their eyes set on the Nexus and nobody is alive to stop them.
Now that's game number one going into the hands of CBT in very, very convincing fashion. It never seemed close. And now it's kind of just back to the drawing board. Again, MGE, they go ahead, draft themselves a nice 5v5 composition, but unfortunately, all of their lanes are pretty much losing lanes. And that's what we saw as a trend in their previous series, and that didn't work out well for them. So they need winning lanes, or at least to play more aggressive in some of these lanes. They had the opportunity to do that with the Wukong, but they didn't go and force the issue over and over again in that top side. They kind of just let it simmer down.
The question I have, Nightstar, is Seraphorce came into this game one with no bans because they were late to the match. They lost all of them. How do you still have 3 losing lanes when your opponent cannot ban and you're on red side with a guaranteed counter pick for at least one solo lane? I think that that they need to rethink their draft strategy just a little bit coming into this game too, because Seraphorce will now be back up to full strength. And honestly, like I again can see how CBT have looked just so dominant throughout this season because their macro of that game was immaculate. And I want to point out one specific play down there in that bot side where JJ, they were actually able to get a kill onto the opposing jungler. But then on the way to the dragon, the Heimer flashed the wall just so that he could set up his turrets before they actually got to the Drake. And that was able to stall out long enough for their jungler to return. They got the dragon. bada bing, bada boom. You saw the rest of the game, but it's that willingness to get to the pit first, the objective first at all costs. They knew what their win condition was, and they played to it really well. That's not a thing I see in a lot of teams at this level.
Well, it also came down to the fact that they had more resources to play around the map with, and the fact that, well, they had lanes that could shove, and then also they had 3 teleports. They had 3 teleports. So for the side of MGE, honestly, if you're the Jinx, you probably should have just gone for the teleports as well, just to try and match and be able to get back to lane faster. You don't necessarily need to use it to teleport to your team, but you should be looking to utilize it to get back to lane and at least be able to get or punish with obtaining turret plates in exchange for those cross maps.
All right. Well, it was a great show out of CBT and MG Eclipse. We have a couple of things we want you to work on, but they've still got a shot. You got to make the best of this this second chance you've been given at the finals, and we'll see what they make of it after this short break. We'll see you there. Welcome back, League fans. It's game number 2 here now. The Upsurge Contenders League Grand Finals. I'm Audio. This is my buddy Nightstar, and we're here to take you through this wonderful series, or at least what's left of it, as CBT ran away with that game number 1. Not too unlike how, anybody looking at this match on paper kind of had expected it to go.
Yeah, it was definitely a rough start to the series for the side of MGE. They're going to swap over the blue side. Perhaps getting the Udyr pick would help. Just being able to apply a little bit more early presence. Again, the Volibear pick isn't bad, but we just saw there was a clear difference when Jinjin got to play Volibear and when he got to play something different, like the Olaf. He had 2 games of Olaf in the previous series. They looked, I would say, a lot better in the fact that he was able to clear jungle and fight. This time around, he needs to play less around the team composition and more for making sure that they can get out of lane safely, because that's the main issue. They just cannot get out of lane in a safe fashion where mid-game comes and they're just too far down.
And it started off great for them, right? The laning phase thing we were talking about went pretty well. The Lucian got up to about a 10-15 CS lead, but that's nothing to cry home about. And they even started to win up there in the top side. But it was when those objectives started spawning that everything kind of went to crap. Because the CBT roster was just so good on their first items. And once they got those power points, they just forced every fight they could possibly take. And it seemed like MG Eclipse were willing to meet them on those engages, in those choke points, and CBT just had more gold. Even the engages even looked really good from NG Eclipse. They just didn't have enough gold. So I agree. I'd like to see some more agency, some more power drafted into the early stages of the draft, so that CBT don't just automatically lose the fights before 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I outlined pregame. For the side of MGE, it's important for them to get their picks. However, I didn't mean it in a fashion where you purposefully pick losing lanes or projected heavily losing lanes, like the Orianna into Lucian. You just shouldn't do that, because then you're kind of starting out on just one leg and trying to compete in the sprint or even in a marathon with just one leg is not going to cut it here, especially when that team is CBT. So going into next draft, I need to see a stronger jungler, or at least a more heavy skirmishing jungler like the Udyr or the Hecarim, or you need a much better mid laner that can really contest priority, or just be able to have 1v1 pressure.
Yeah. And as we hop into the draft, we'll see if MGE do switch up their priority. Because remember, CBT no bans game 1, and they did opt for the Udyr first pick, so that was taken off the table. MG Eclipse banned away the Hecarim. That was it. The Olaf was still there. The Graves was there. The Lilia was there. There was still a lot of power picks on the table, and MGE still went for the Volibear. Now, this could just be a case of, hey, we think that we're at a bit of a mismatch on our opponents, and maybe we don't feel comfortable playing that early game style. We think that if we try to beat them level 1 to 5, that they're just going to win. And, teams can default into comfort, into scaling in those times. But I like to caution them, because that comfort in the late game comes with an asterisk. CBT is not the kind of team that's going to let you get there.
Yeah, and they go ahead and ban away the Heimerdinger right off the bat. I think it makes a lot of sense. CBT, there was just so much power coming out from that bot lane, and it just didn't make sense for the side of MGE to go ahead and leave it available, unless if they were really going to prioritize the junglers. Again, if you're not going to do that, then you just have to take away some of these mage bot laners that they can play, and the Heimerdinger throws such a big wrench into how the game is played bot side. They're going to go ahead, ban away the Zed. Zed also a very troublesome champion, especially here for Heppo, because again, if you're going to be blind picking these control mages, you pretty much have to invest all your bans into that mid lane.
Yeah, I also like the Wukong ban coming out from CBT. I mean, it didn't make any waves in game number 1, but MG Eclipse did go for it in the counter pick. So just taking away the comfort and trying to force your opponent onto something that they may not be as familiar with can always be an edge. MG Eclipse are going to take off Morgana for that last ban. All junglers still on the table, and MG Eclipse do have first pick. Let's see if they want to give it over to Jin Jin.
They should go ahead and lock in a Hecarim here because it has good scaling, has decent early mid game into something like an Udyr, and that way they bolster their early mid game, but then they still get the ability to scale. And now for CBT, I expect an Udyr as a response, or if they really have other plans, like maybe a Karthus in that bottom lane, some other mage bot laner, they can go ahead and lock that in. But it looks like they just want to kind of say, all right, let me show you how to actually play the Volibear jungle, because they've gone ahead and locked it in.
It's certainly interesting because you can use the same arguments you were just bringing up for the side of MGE. There's a lot of good junglers, arguably better junglers on the table. The Lilia, the Graves, the Olaf, but they're going to go with the Volibear instead. If CBT can win this one, it will be a moral victory as well. That's a way to take the air out of your opponent's tires. They do get a Kai'Sa for themselves, so making sure that they've got one of the best late game insurances down there in the bot lane.
So the Kai'Sa just says that they want to play more forward lane here. They're going to play super aggressive for the side of MG Eclipse. For them to pivot over to the Philios, I don't really like it, but it really depends on what you're pairing it with. So I would assume it's going to be the Thresh here because it's still left available. It is the classic pairing with the Philios, as you mentioned as well. So that means they lock in their bot side, and it also allows them to again double ban mid lane when it comes to the second phase.
Yeah, we'll see what CBT's response here is. They have the option to just match supports. Now, Rel off the table, Thresh off the table, Morgana off the table. They could also just pick one of their solo lanes blind here if they want to make sure. The Karma would actually work really well as a flex pick. Could go into that support role. It's a nice lane alongside the Kai'Sa, but if they need to, can flex top and mid in a pinch.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's going to be Tiaras in that bottom lane, again, not too many non-enchanter supports played. I don't believe any at all during this season. So,
but hey, with CBT, you never know.
Yeah, so I would expect an enchanter into that bot lane, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be that Karma. That could go into the hands of Good Sir. I highly doubt it goes into the hands of Cry now, because if it is going to be a control mage, it's going to be that Victor pick. Now into the second phase, it should be double bans again coming in from MG Eclipse. I expect to see the Lucian ban, and the Echo ban.
That's a visual bug, right? That's actually Lucian, right? Right?
They've gone for the Gnar ban. I'm really confused, but at the same time, if
it is. Wait, is our production trolling us?
It's trolling.
Got us again.
They banned away the Wukong, so maybe that was your only answer into the Gnar. And as a result, they go ahead and take that away. Now, the Orianna ban actually kind of saves MG Eclipse from themselves. Because now they're forced into a different matchup that doesn't get just hard slams by Echo and Lucian. So we'll see where they end up pivoting for their mid lane pick.
We're going to wait it out because now that our producers fooled us once, I no longer trust anything on this screen. So we'll wait a little bit. Maybe that Yone changes to Lucian. I'm getting confirmation that was the Yone locked in. So Lucian's still on the table here for CBT.
Yone, also another great champion into control mages.
Yeah.
So, and it looks like they just say, MG Eclipse, Heppo, you don't know how to play anything besides control mages. So I'm just going to, again, draft face up, and you cannot punish me. They go ahead, lock in the Akali. Akali still has flex potential, but at the same time, it's just such a great matchup into, again, control mages.
And I mean, this not a control mage. I guess it's gonna be the Lulu mid instead as the answer to that Akali.
It could be a Lulu mid, could also be a Lulu top lane. That also depends on the matchup. It has a great matchup into the, I would have said the Gnar, but you know, they've already banned away the Gnar. Urgot looking to be the hover. This is a fine blinds pick here. Would have liked something with a little bit more aggression to be able to hard gank around, because I would say this is going to be a top heavy draft when you draft an Aphelios Thresh. You'd like to get, of course, plate gold onto the Aphelios, but really you're looking to just hard slam top lane and then transition into the Aphelios afterwards.
Sion would be the last piece of the puzzle that CBT needs for this front to back team fight. And yeah, they've kind of got it all now. They've got the biggest of beefy meatballs in the front line. They've got the Karma, they've got the late game and the Kaisa. They've got some flashy playmaking potential in the Akali. I think CBT have run away with another really good draft, Nightstar.
I have a little bit of a small caveat in the fact that the Sion really wants to do more of that front to back team fighting as you laid out. But really what I envision here from the side of CBT is just a whole lot of dive, because you have Volibear, you have Akali, you have Kaisa. You really just want to annihilate that Aphelios, make him unable to play the game, and then afterwards they don't necessarily have a ton of damage to follow up. So you just kind of mosey on around and eventually you kind of win that battle of attrition. The Sion, while offers long range engage, doesn't necessarily add on to that dive pressure. So we'll see how that actually plays out. And if the side of CBT do end up playing more of a standard front to back composition with this Kaisa, or if they really heavy index into dive in the backline.
Yeah, and let's talk about the MG Eclipse comp a little bit more, and you know, kind of how they want to play this game. Now I'm looking, of course, at Jinjin. I think we're always gonna be looking at Jinjin as the player to watch for this team, but more so than ever in this comp, because he is really the key to their engage. I see a lot to stack on to the Hecarim once he goes in with that ultimate. You got the Lulu ult, you know, Thresh can follow up on that CC. You've got long range executions from the Urgot, but if you can't start off with that Hecarim ult, I don't really see any other way that this comp gets started.
Yeah, it's going to be skill shot reliance when it comes to starting out those engages with the Thresh hook, or with maybe a Urgot ultimate to slow targets down. But again, the pick potential isn't that great. You're going to have to be looking at something maybe like a Aphelios ultimate to try and start things out when he gets Graviton. So MG Eclipse, they have a little bit of a higher execution level, I would say, when it comes to getting these fights. But if Jinjin gets ahead, that just clears the board very easily when it comes to how do we start fights? Well, we just put Lulu speed onto Hecarim. He finds us a pick, and then he just runs over the rest of the team fight. Then you don't even need to worry about it, because Hecarim is just that powerful of a champion.
Yeah, and that powerful of a champion, but with the gold that he needs. Again, Shelfelf didn't really let Jinjin get too much done in the last game. CBC did a really good job of tracking him, of delaying him at times, and then just always stealing the objectives out from under his nose. So it will be on to Jinjin and the rest of MG Eclipse to make use of that powerful pick.
Yeah, and however, to the credit of MG Eclipse here, if you look at this draft, and then you compare it on the side of CBT, where's their disengage? In the previous game, you saw the Heimerdinger. You also saw the mobility coming out from the Lucian, making it very difficult to engage on. But more importantly, it was about that Heimer pick that really stuffed all their engages. Here, you look at this composition, they have no disengage. Their only way of getting out of these fights is to run faster away with the Karma speed up, then the Hecarim is coming in at them with the Lulu speed up. So it's really just a need for speed kind of game when it comes to these team fights.
You don't need disengage if your opponents are dead, Nightstar. And that's the plan here for CPT. Now, early on, when I'm looking at, lane matchups, it feels like the most lopsided lane for MG Eclipse is that top side. And there's definitely an ability to punish Sion, but Sion, I think, has become one of my favorite weak side top laners on this current patch for the sole reason that if you die, if you get dove, you can pick up the wave before you actually go back to base. And that is like, if you know that you're just going to get pressured all game, Sion, for that reason, is a phenomenal pick. He also just happens to be like one of the tankiest champions in the game for no reason whatsoever. Infinite health stacked onto his W because we're Riot Games and why not? We remade Sono into a new champion, and but I think that the Sion, if he can neutralize a lot of what Hecarim is and Urgot are going to try to throw at him, if that's where Jin and the rest of MGE decide to throw their weights, then the other 4-man squad is incredibly powerful. And playing from ahead, yeah, there's some peel, but it doesn't feel like there's enough to deal with all that dive that you were talking about. Sure, that Sion doesn't really fit it, but maybe we just see Sion as a way to equalize that top lane.
Yeah, I mean, really, for both ends, again, not a whole lot of disengage. When fight starts, fights are going to be started. Now, it looks like we're headed straight into a pause, which means...
back. Oh, we're gone again.
All right.
And we're on to Summoner's Rift. It took us a minute, but short pauses, you can't have esports without them, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And just a quick reminder, CBT, they do not start with an extra 500k. It's just a small graphical error. The red side looks like they start with a little bit more, but it'll even out. Don't you worry.
Yeah, and actually we get to see Heppo going for the phase rush and also an ignite in this mid lane. So really looking to just hard punish this Akali. And I actually really like the Lulu pick in that regard because you can hard punish an Akali pick, especially with this corrupting potion start. You're going to be able to auto nonstop, pop those corrupting potions, get more damage in those auto trades. And this is why Lulu really, really good into melee assassin champions. And now it really comes down to MG. What do they do with the extra priority that they get with this Lulu? So all those win conditions I outlined in draft, what they needed to change to improve their draft, they went and did it. Now it's about the execution.
Yeah, and that execution has to come from Jin. He is the king on this chessboard for the side of MG. He will be starting on the top side. Both junglers will, with a leash from their top laners. Now, Hecarim's clear speed. Volley's got a bit healthier, but you've said many times didn't get faster, and he will fall behind to this Hecarim as long as Jin is playing it right. Question is, where's Jin going to take that tempo advantage?
Heppo already going to town here. And
so
yeah, for crying out, this is also just the results of what has happened to Akali, where her laning has gotten a lot weaker because that 5-point strike, you can't use it to harass onto champions as well anymore because it doesn't give you that refund when you proc your passive. The passive has changed, and also just the ability that, well, it doesn't do as much damage onto this backline, so you can't instant clear it out.
Yeah, the level 1 for Akali now, and just kind of the level 1 to 3 guy by comparison, is absolutely terrible. She's quite reliant on that smoke screen now to really get the majority of her energy and trading power. You could see now Hippo already taking her down to 150 HP. She has teleport to get back into lane. Good, sir. 50 HP, 2 more auto attacks. It's the flash forward, and Baby Girls with the shotgun knees gets first blood.
Yeah, and it was actually key that Baby Girls got that last auto with those shotgun knees because the extra bonus damage without it wouldn't have been able to finish off that kill. Now in this bottom lane, we have Volibear here.
Delphelf is here, and it's an exhaust on Elo Noob. He flashes respectfully, both bot laners do. And it's just going to be the summoner spells traded for the exhaust and the Volibear's flash as well.
Yeah, now things kind of come back down to even, but Heppo just really could just
This is
flash
fair.
auto and
What is this, Night
just
Star?
blow him up. But now Shelf Elf here to at least hold the fort. But now Jin, that's not the ideal
No, he
spot.
stepped into turret range. He's gonna die. Cry now gets the kill.
Double?
Now the support has come up, trying to turn it around. It's a double kill. They trade one back, but onto the Thresh. That was a huge play for CBT.
Yeah, and a very large misplay coming in from the Hecarim, and the fact that he doesn't use the Ghost, so doesn't get the extra damage in that regard, but also doesn't route behind the champion he wants to knock back. So he actually pushes them forward into their tower, and as a result, he comes under fire from that tower, and he ends up falling. And that is just such a big mistake, blunder there, and that means
I
MGE
love this so much.
They're on the back foot, and I mean, this is also double buffs onto this Akali. Like, the harass now is the effectiveness is basically cut in half.
Yeah, I mean, Hepa was dominating this lane until this play came around. All of that work flushed down the toilet now. Cry now is firmly in control. He has his Omni Vamp now, or his Magic Pen already, and almost level 6. That's when Akali really starts to become dangerous.
Yeah, Omni Vamp coming out for the Akali. Just getting that extra sustain in lane is going to be very helpful. And Baby Girl's taking this fight. I mean, obviously the minions are still going to be kind of in control for Baby Girls, but you are losing a very large chunk of EXP. But Jin now here means that they should get this kill. That means they have a lane to play around besides the Lulu, and that could be good.
How much of the CS can Good Sir pick up on his way out? No, he's just going to focus trading damage onto Baby Girls. But yeah, really good job punishing Good Sir, and honestly, a really good freeze by Baby Girls as well.
Yep, and without the teleport, Good Sir can't get more, or is going to lose out quite a bit here in that top side. So Baby Girl's in a very powerful position, having the gold lead, having the kill lead, having the EXP lead, having everything lead. And that's just going to make things a lot better there. And nice little hook.
Sentence lands under Cry now.
Ooh,
I think he might have used a Shuriken flip already. He has to flash away. And the play will fizzle out. Just some damage onto the mid laner.
Oh, Jin.
Jinjin and Shelfelt meet each other in the river, or in the jungle. I'll try to take away these chickens. Mid laner is... Okay, Cry now will stick around. And so it'll just be the call off. Jin, he has been really good on these smites to secure these camps. And he will walk away with his raptors.
I actually believe the large raptor got stolen away by Shelf Elf there. Because he did throw down the smite. Jin didn't actually invest the smite onto that, so it gets the small raptors, but still loses the big prize. It's still going to be a-okay for Jin, and the fact that, well, he's able to keep pace with the Volibear. The Volibear hasn't gotten any kills, so not too far ahead in that regard. And now it's looking like it's going to be a competition between Urgot and this Akali when it comes to that first team fight.
Yeah, and
I mean this play before.
Urgot...
There's no Jin behind him this time.
It feels like Mitzer's just wasting time. Shelfelt is going to be the one roaming up to help now. And Baby Girls has to run for the hill. Shelfelt is half HP, and Baby Girls is level 6. He has the Fury on death if he can land it, but he doesn't! And that means he goes down. Shelfelt will pick up the kill credit there.
Yeah, and that play just bites him really hard, because now he doesn't get to collect this wave. Jin, in fact, is going to shove this out. So Baby Girl's just massive blunder, and he ends up conceding a lot of his lead in that regard. Fortunately for him, he still has a very large lead, and the fact that Good Sir did indeed recall, so this crash will go through.
Man, what are they hiding in that top lane alcove up there? That's the second time now we've seen Baby Girls and Good Sir playing Ring Around the Rosie for like 30 seconds until one of the junglers shows up and says, hey, get back to lane. Go to bed.
It's past your bedtime. And, well, now you already see the rotation coming in from that bot side, and the bot side has played very well from the side of CBT in that they've kept pace in farm. They haven't needed to do anything special when it comes to lane, but they've been able to get roams into the jungle. You already see they stole away that red buff. They had that ward down by the Krugs as well now, so they added an extra layer of safety for themselves, as Baby Girls is still looking to slam this top lane, which definitely should be possible, as
he
that's
runs
not the direction you want to go.
into a horse, though. There's nowhere left to go. Good sir. Couldn't quite Tokyo drift his way to safety. Again, just going to try to put down a little bit of damage. Honestly, just go for the CS at that point. Death sentence, though. Did he really want it? Stringy Bird has to flash away as Shellfelp has arrived with a Karma in tow. He will disable a turret. Stringy Bird's going to fall. Will they be able to find LOL Noob as well? Yes, they will. It's a double kill for Just Chatting.
Yeah, and a brilliant gank coming from CBT. The lane gank comes through. They bait it out incredibly well. And the fact that they allow that hook to come through and land. And now in this top side, do they go for the dive? Jinjin has that Rift Herald, so definitely looking to throw it down, but
this might leave the turret just short of going down. They got around 2.5 plates, but I'm not sure if they got it all the way. Yeah, it's got a sliver of HP left. They should be able to pick that one up pretty soon. Good sir, caught behind enemy lines, but Baby Girls is still 200 HP. He has the ultimate, and that's really all he's looking for here.
Yeah, this seems like a bit of a greedy play here. They've been topside for such a long time that they go ahead for one more wave crash. But if they stay any longer, the Kali is going to be here. Like, people are coming up.
Yeah, I mean, this has all been spotted out. There is blue wards.
Kali could go for a one-man dive.
There. You can see Tiara's. She's going to try it. Level 9, lands the Shuriken flip. Jinjin has ult. He needs to use it as she comes in. There's the fear. She tries to dash away. Fear Beyond Death does not land, but the shutdown comes through anyway. Baby Girls is out of mana.
Oh, nice sidestep.
But a good sidestep in the decimating smash. He's going to fall anyway, as good sir will trade his life for that one.
Yeah, but in that regard, it's still worth it, Audio, because of the fact that you reset the gold onto the Scion, and now Scion's worth 300 gold again, and then you immediately kill them afterwards. Like, that is definitely a win-win for the side of MGE. This Urgot is so large now, and also just the fact that this Hecarim pick, you see that once the Hecarim comes through, who has early game, who has mid game, who has the scaling capabilities into the late game, the whole composition just has a world of difference.
Yeah, and although MGE look phenomenally better in this game, I do want to point out that their composition was drafted to put them in this spot. Jinjin, man, he's already so fast just with that Turbo Chem tank. However, the question I have for this game now is, will MGE be able to close it out? Because they have some good scaling, but there's also some good scaling on the other side with
teleport's coming in.
So TP channeled. Good sir is currently in a 1v3, but he's a tanky Scion. Make it a 1v4, and I don't think he can get it out. Drifted. He doesn't hit the wall. He's able to make it to the turrets. Jinjin, though, you can't outrun the horse.
Yeah, you can't.
And you'll eventually kill him.
And Heppo actually is the one to get it, which I'm perfectly fine with, because Jinjin, of course, going full tank. So you want to get your support items online just a little bit faster, just to help supplement it. And Heppo, I would assume, going for Moonstone means that the ability for this team to stay in these fights is going to be really, really nuts. Although Heppo might have gone a little too far.
Cry now. He
whiffed
almost everything. He whiffed the one ability that mattered most, and Heppo is going to turn that around.
Yeah, and that's one of the things when it comes to Assassins versus Lulu. Lulu just does so well. If the Assassin doesn't get to capitalize on that one mistake Lulu does, you almost never get to come back into the lane. And now Heppo has 2 kills in this lane, has evened up the advantage that kind of got conceded by Jinjin early on. And that's going to make a huge difference in...
Wait,
think Baby Girls might be disconnected. I'm not sure. That was really, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunate there for sure, as the pause is gonna come through.
Unfortunate that I
Interesting.
came through after the
Yeah.
death. But sometimes, comms, you don't necessarily hear it because all of a sudden they're gone. And top laners don't necessarily talk a whole lot in the comms necessarily because I mean they're just kind of hanging out on an island. So, what can you do?
Yeah, they don't usually turn on their chat until like 20, 25 minutes in the game once they've
Exactly.
finished playing out their top lane. But I mean, honestly, for the side of CBT, there's been enough goofy stuff going on in the top lane that I don't even blame them for seeing him standing there and just like trying to go for it.
Is he
Because that
baiting?
could honestly have been a bait. Baby, that is something that I feel like Baby Girls would have done with all the alcove shenanigans that have been going on.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that he would have tried to bait them
Uh-huh.
in. But it seems like it was a disconnecting. The unpause is coming through, so hopefully everything is figured out now. It still has to be said, though, that is a really good comeback for CBT, able to find a kill onto Baby Girl, start to slow down the snowball that has been building up there.
Yeah. However, for the side of MGE, they have that Moonstone now completed onto the Lulu. This is kind of everything that you want from your squad. You've hit all your marks. Now it's to bring all 5 pieces together and contest that next dragon and fight for it. And I really think that MGE, if they win this next fight, they definitely can just run away with the rest of the game at this point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and especially, I mean, you have an Aphelios Lulu. I mean, your late game looks phenomenal as long as you don't give over kind of that perfect team fight. Because remember, CBT still does have a lot of dive. If your carries can stay safe, MGE look firmly in position to even the score here in this series. However, CBT are the #1 seed for a reason.
Can't count them out.
We cannot count them out at any point. This is still a less than 2,000 gold lead. And it was around this time, 15 minutes in, that CBT started to explode the last game. Now, it looks like a 5v5 might break out.
They're stalling for Aphelios to come on over here. Now that he is here, that's when they're going
great
to go.
Death sentence on Kali.
That's nuts!
Tucker him into the back line. They find 3. It's a beautiful start for the side
Cry now!
of CBT.
Cry now!
Good goes down. Cry now is alive in the backside. Health bars dropping all around. It's too close to call a photo finish. Can Baby Girls clean it up? Triple kill for the Urgot. But it's CBT that come out with 2 members alive, and so they get to pick up the Herald. That was a fight of centimeters.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have replay here, but that was just on such a razor's edge of a fight. And you saw how beautiful that fight started out for the side of MGE. They get the hook, and the best part was the Thresh got escorted all the way into the back line. So he got the perfect flay, perfect ultimate, perfect everything. And you just saw all of the AoE damage get dumped down, but they didn't focus any particular target. So they weren't able to get an immediate deletion. And while all those health bars were low, no one actually died from the side of CBT. That means the Kali gets to at least try and fight her way back in, and fight her way back she did, because she found immediate double kills onto both of those carries. Now they're going to start up another one.
He goes in, gets hit by a death sentence. We'll see if it lives up to its name. Yeah, just chatting goes down. Ciaras is soon to fall. Jin coming up huge, but the Akali has joined the fight, and he's got his eyes on Heppo. He will take him down. CBT now,
Baby Girls.
They have to run. Baby Girls flashes forward with a double fear beyond death. And MGE, they're a little bit ticked off on how that last fight turned out. They're back onto the map with a vengeance now.
Yeah, and this time around, there was enough room for them to see what champions they needed to focus down. Last time, they were all clumped up so tightly together that they couldn't identify where that Akali was. This time around, things spread out. The Akali immediately, when she jumps onto the back line, they all turn and they all put her into the grave. And that was the difference between the last fight and this one.
Yeah, and MGE immediately going to take that into the bottom lane and pick up that dragon for themselves. Make sure that there's not any stacking going on the side of CBT. That's their second, actually. And they will have to trade it for that mid lane tier 1, though.
Yeah, they will trade a tower for it, but you're more than willing to accept that Inferno Dragon because it adds that little extra damage because of the fact that they are running, of course, a more of a supportive Lulu build. They, of course, love that extra little bit of damage to be able to amplify and make those shields a little bit stronger, but also if they get that Inferno Soul, adds that little extra range damage, that safety damage. And then, of course, you have that full tank Hecarim, so getting more damage onto him also feels really, really nice. Now, baby girls, I mentioned about 10 minutes ago that this game was going to come down to Akali versus Urgot, and Akali won that Rift Herald fight, but Urgot won the dragon setup.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Now, Crynow has tons of damage. You can see that Rift Maker. We'll see how the 1v1 goes, though. We get a little mini version of that Akali versus Urgot, and Baby Girls is destroying it. Oh my god, it wasn't even close.
Absolutely outplayed.
He just pressed W, and anytime Crynow was in range to do damage, a shotgun took a quarter of his HP off.
Yeah, you can't compete against the Urgot here because the Shroud doesn't do anything to the Urgot. He just stands on top of the Shroud, but on the flip side, CBT looking to make a play onto Heppo.
Good wild growth to interrupt the stun, but gets the CC off anyway and just chatting into the back line. Can they finish off Heppo, though? Here comes Jin, and now they're turning around onto just chatting. He's already gone down. Self-Elf is a mile away from his team, and he will be the second casualty. Heppo just cannot die.
And Shelf Elf, he's been put on the shelf right then and there. That means it also opens up Baron at 20 minutes on the dot. Do they actually commit for it is the actual question. And with how healthy their health bars are, with the fact that they have, I believe, the thing called Urgot, this makes it very, very easy. Having the extra % damage on those shotgun knees means that they just walk circles around it and they just obliterate this objective.
Now
but
Crynow, he's going into the pit. He's trying to be a hero. Sitting in the Shroud for the time being. He's going to go down. Good Sir is going to trade one back, but Jin has been hitting the Baron this entire time, and he's going to secure it for his team. It's one of the Barons taken off the table, but just on the support, MGE still coming away huge.
Yeah, and not just huge, it's massively huge because you're looking at this gold lead now. It's 6,000. This is the composition, of course, that scales incredibly well. I would say much better CBT because while you can scale with Kaisa, you don't want to scale with her against an Aphelios. Of course, the Akali can scale, but into Lulu, you don't get to scale. So now for the side of CBT, it's about somehow finding these side lane plays, being able to play the pick game rather than the 5v5 game, because this Urgot is so massive. He just can't be stopped.
They've been trying, right? We saw Shelf-Elf make that play into the top side against an isolated Lulu, but just the amount of tools that Heppo and the rest of MGE have to keep themselves alive. Good steal on the ground there. It does feel like that as long as the death ball remains together, that Lulu is just so impossible to push through, and your chances for eliminating those squishies are pretty limited. So as we'll have to keep an eye out on LOL Noob, see if he steps away from his pocket of safety at all, because that will be the opportunity that CBT is desperately looking for right now.
Yeah, and now you see MGE, they understand where the power of their composition is. They're so good at these grouped up team fights. They have, it's basically a 4-1 because this group of 4 is really, really strong around being able to play around this Aphelios. And the one is an Urgot, who's just 10, 4, and 7, we don't really even need to talk about why he's strong, because you just look at that score and understand right away. Now they're going to peel back towards this dragon. They should be able to attain this. And if the side of CBT go and try and contest it, it could be game over.
Well, they are going to do just that. Shelf Elf gets stunned up. Perma CC'd.
Goodbye.
He's going to get dragged in, but they trade him for the Urgot. Baby Girls is dead, and this is the chance that CBT have been looking for. Cry now puts out a little bit of damage. He tags Hecarim. Yeah. Lulu not there to keep their top laner alive. And this is a number advantage, but it's a health bar for MGE. Great hook is going to bring the jungler to his death sentence. Now Jinjin, he's way behind enemy lines, but he's fast enough that he just doesn't care. MGE still come out ahead because they trade their top for the jungle and the support, which means they do get to pick up their third dragon now, Infernal Soul for MGE.
And honestly, CBT, they definitely could have, that could have been the fight right there, because you look at where Heppo wasn't anywhere close to his team. That means there's no extra insurance policy on Jinjin or Baby Girls in these fights. And all of a sudden, Baby Girls dies. Just chatting gets a massive shutdown into his wallet, and it almost made that fight winnable. Cry now got into the back line. There was no Lulu to shut him down, prevent him from doing more damage. But unfortunately, there wasn't follow-up to actually be able to help out the call he finished out a target. Yeah. And by that point,
composition relies on each other a lot more than CBT's comp does, right? Although they are very much a dive together team, Cry now can go in and do a lot of damage on his own. The same with self-chatting at this point. But for the side of MGE, if their members are not grouped up, then these members are very squishy. There's only one frontliner in that Hecarim. Everybody else is susceptible, but they're still feeling very good. 5,000 gold ahead.
Exactly.
A lot of that gold funneled onto both this Hecarim and Urgot. And this Aphelios now on 2 items, closing in on 3, is not too far behind the Kaisa in terms of actual combat power.
Yeah, and now Heppo has his 2-item spike, has the Chempunk Putrefier, which means that there's not a whole lot of healing that's going to be able to come through from the side of CBT. It's just AoE Grievous Wounds. It is probably the best item, I would say, in the game. Honestly, because of just how effective it is at the moment, with how much healing is involved in the game, with how much a lot of these champions love Ravenous Hunter as well. Now Jinjin.
Keep your eyes out here. They want Heppo. They didn't find him. Great Lantern to get him to safety. And CBT, that was the play they've been kind of setting up for like the last minute. They, spent their river priority on that, so now they just kind of have to back off. Cry now is actually caught out. 3 auto attacks. How many more is it going to take to kill him? 1 from Jinjin, 2, a Q. Okay, it takes a little longer than I thought, but
Jinjin's full tank.
That Urgot damage, jeez.
Yeah, the Urgot damage was nuts. The Hecarim damage, not as much, but that's kind of what you expect when he's going full tank Hecarim. But at the same time, they find the pick. They were able to get the pick onto the most important member, I would say. And that, just continues to hurt CBT. And
they found one more. They found this support, and Baby Girls might be looking for a third. He does not land the fear beyond death. He turns the flash, though.
He could get turned.
Shelf Elf, running like a bat out of hell, is going to make sure that he goes down. Surprisingly enough, he almost traded still on the just chatting. However, the jungler showing his face means that MGE can start up this Baron. Cry now and Good Sir going to be looking to stall this one out as long as they can. But Jinjin's got their number. They've turned for the fight. And it's a tanky Scion. How long can he last? 4 members with their eyes on Cry now. And he'll be doing nothing else looking at the gray screen for the next 45 seconds.
Yep, and that was actually brilliantly played.
Okay, I thought they were doing the Baron there. They pull off.
Yeah, they go ahead and take away the control ward there. I believe that was their goal. And now for the side of MGE, they're actually going to start it up again. I don't think it's
I mean, they still have to try and stall, right? They have to do something. MGE at this point, 5,000 gold ahead. If you give them a Baron, it's close to a death sentence.
Okay, they have the teleport onto Baby Girl, so this fight makes a lot more sense now. And really, they're looking for the fight, not necessarily the Baron.
Here comes the engage from Jinjin. He's already down to half HP, though. And CBT, they feel perfectly fine engaging. The Baron has reset. They've bought more time. And MGE now have to restart this long process. They've already taken so much damage that they're just going to have to pull off. Good stall from CBT.
Yeah, and now teleport coming in from the Scion. They're going to be able to get access to this mid wave. They're going to try and push out mid and then rotate back over to Baron. Most likely just to clear out vision here. Not really actually contested and force to play around it, but being able to clear out that vision is a small victory that CBT will certainly take. But the big thing, the big ticket item, is this next dragon. Of course, dragon now spawned. This is sole point for the side of MGE. They have to fight.
Like CBT want to just burn this one down. They do. They get it. But now can they win the fight afterwards? Jinjin, so much damage coming through from this Kaisa. Self-Elf is taking up in the front 9. LOL Noob survives with a little bit of HP. Never mind. The Urgot's going to take him down. Baby Girl's low himself, and so he has to be careful. Flash from Tiaras to block the Fear Beyond Death. I don't think it was needed, but I appreciate the bravery anyway. MGE, they're going to look for the mid prio here. They have the health bar advantage.
Yeah, they have health bar advantage in this mid lane. But the damage after the Urgot, like, if Aphelios and Hecarim die, that's just two massive components of their composition that end up falling. They don't necessarily have the 1v5 damage for Urgot to really win these fights by himself, because again, he doesn't necessarily have any sustain built into his kit. He doesn't have the Conqueror, so he doesn't heal a ton. It's about these more burst trades and being able to obliterate targets one by one. And for that, you need other members to be up and available to pull attention off of you. And even looking at his build, a lot of health, not necessarily a ton of resistances. So Urgot not in a 1v9 position. So they need this Aphelios to stay alive for this Lulu to have a target to buff up.
Yeah, it also felt like Jinjin might have jumped the gun on that last fight a little bit. CBT were able to burn that Drake incredibly fast. And although MGE are, 4,000 gold ahead now, a lot of that is put into their front line. And for the side of CBT, their gold is put into Kaisa, into Akali, the damage dealer. So if the front line goes in without any help, they have the damage to shred through you. That's what you saw when Jinjin and Baby Girls tried to step forward. And we saw Heppo and LOL Noob, they were still stuck over the wall. They weren't able to throw all of their utility, all of their sustainability onto that Hecarim. And man, if you get an isolated Acathian Rain with 3 items, it doesn't matter how much health or resistances those frontliners have built up. They're going to get shredded.
Yeah, and now Cry Now actually has the Demonic Embrace completed, which makes him actually quite durable here in these fights. And he's basically changed the Kali into a drain tank, having the Omnivamp.
Fanatic Death Brush, forcing the ultimate out of Jinjin. Big cooldown, especially with the Baron on the table.
And that kind of mistake comes from the fact that you see the Kali and the Scion just pushed out on the sides so far up.
Man, Heppo alone here.
Heppo.
CBT, they're going to look for him. Control ward on the Lantern. Oldest play in the book. Hecarim gets out by the skin of his teeth. Houdini escape. But he has to back, and that means that no jungler available to contest this Baron. There's some vision, and MGE will know this is going on, but there's nothing they can do about it. Instead, Baby Girls will just opt to push bot.
Yeah, I don't think Baby Girls should go for a teleport play. Obviously, they had a word on there, so they knew they were doing it, but it's just you would essentially throw the game at risk with that play. And even now, CBT, while yes, you were able to get the Baron buff, you can now play 1-3-1 or 1-4. MGE, they still have the better 5v5 composition. the problem is we haven't seen MGE do a 5v5 in a while.
Yeah, no, they've been getting picked off front, left, and center. And it started to really tax them as well. CBT have been able to close this gold gap. It's now within 2,000, which honestly doesn't make a whole lot of difference in the actual fights. At that point, with the gold lead so close, it's more about the execution and who can get the fight that they're looking for. And again, I want to bring attention to where this gold is located. It is a full item advantage for Kaisa over this Aphelios. A lot of this gold lead has been pumped into Jin Jin and Baby Girls, but we've seen a couple fights now where they just don't have quite enough damage to finish off these members. There's still enough survivability on the side of CBT.
Yeah, CBT is starting to get a little more and more tanky. The Scion doing Scion things, of course. And then you see the Volibear is getting to that point where he's starting to get a couple of more tank items under his belt. And for the side of MGA, it looks like they're looking to just concede this dragon. Although Jin Jin, looking for the hero steal, dies a martyr.
MGE, I mean, we said that the one way that they could throw this game away is if they didn't group up. The death ball has been separated, and I just don't think that there's a reason for your jungler to be solo clearing wards with the rest of the team sitting mid clearing these waves. But CBT, they've got the Baron, they picked up the Dragon, and they are marching down this mid lane now. Inhibitor under threat.
Yeah, and I mean, this is like one of your solo queue games where you're just begging your team, please, can we just group 5v5 at least once? Because it just hasn't happened in probably the last 10 minutes. But now, again, split missions.
They found the pinch, and Baby Girls and Heppo are alone. I mean, at least he has the Lulu here to buy a little bit of time. But now that the rest of the team have joined, he's already out of the fight. Baby Girls is eventually going to go down, shut down to the jungler. Look at the Kaisa doing so much damage from the side. Holding in, they do trade the jungler back, and Isabel is going to fall. LOL Noob, watch him. He just gets deleted off the face of the rift. It's a triple kill for just chatting, and the game is over. The Kaisa has scaled. CPT is going to bring this one to series point.
Yeah, and Lil Noob had the position, but the item differential was just there for the Kaisa. The Kaisa obliterates them, and now, well, okay, the minions should be able to finish this.
Hit the tower, please. Just
all right.
Okay.
Well,
cool.
You know,
it
still goes down. Nexus goes down. CBT take a 2-0
They're just
lead.
padding stats. Stringy burst stats specifically.
And we're headed into map in championship point.
Yeah, MGE with probably the best game that a lot of people have had against CBT in a while. We've stated that they have drop maps before, but this looked like a one where MGE were certainly competitive for a large portion of the game. And we were even saying for a couple minutes there, although don't count CBT out, that this game is in their hands, that they have to throw this away. And that's at least promising for the potential of another game being taken off.
Yeah, for MGE, that game truly was in their hands. And they kind of gift wrapped that one by just constantly getting picked off one by one. They never kind of brought all 5 Megazords back together to make the real Megazord, so it was a little bit of an underwhelming finish to that game, but there's still hope for MGE. You saw how that game went out for, I would say, 80% of that game. It was good. It was good signs, and hopefully we see more of that going into game number 3.
Yeah, and it's almost a little bit of a meme at this point, Nightstar, but it's kind of scary how almost true it is. If Jin Jin is not on something he looks comfortable on, it feels like MG just can't play the game. Like it's not even just like the team fights that they're relying on, like even the laning phase when he is on something like the Volibear compared to the Hecarim, even the CS numbers are like surprisingly different for the side of MGE. So I guess my hope for them going to game 2, keep prioritizing picks for Jin. But if you're the side of CBT, you got your bands back now. Toss them at the jungle. Just put Jin on the Volibear, and I think the series might be over. We'll see how it ends up shaking out after a short break. We'll see you guys on the other side as we get ready for game 3 in this championship match between CBT and MGE. Welcome back, everybody, to this finals match between CBT and MG Eclipse. CBT, they stole that game 2 away right out from MGE's nose. It looked so much better and gave me hopes that maybe this wouldn't be a 3-0 sweep, but CBT, I mean, again, it was like 15 minutes in, they just flipped the switch. They turned on their second monitors. They plugged in their headphones, and they just started playing the game so much better. And at the same exact time, like, I don't know, around the time that the got disconnected, I don't know if maybe his computer did some updates or whatever, threw off his sensitivity, because the team just fell apart. They went from this unstoppable death ball to these members just walking every which way, getting picked off, and CBT were more than happy to run away with it from that point.
Yeah, and remember, this was also the squad that did 20-minute Baron. So it wasn't even the 15-minute mark that you mentioned. It was at the 20-minute mark, they still had a pretty sizable lead. They were looking at 6K gold lead and a 20-minute Baron. They had a run of the mill all across the Rift. And then you look 4 minutes into the future, things slowed down, things petered out, they got picked off. And then you look at 34 minutes and the game was done.
Yeah, and it felt very much like the front line just got a bit too big for their britches almost. A lot of the gold early was dumped into the Hecarim, into the Urgot, and we saw like the first 20 minutes was them running around, and anytime they saw a champion, they had the ability to kill that champion. It didn't matter who else was there. But then once they got into the mid game and a couple of the team fights, kills got traded back and forth, for the side of CBT, all of their gold got dumped into Kaisa, dumped into Akali. So there just came this point where there was just a big difference in where the gold was spent on either side. For the side of MGE was all in their front line, but then they would dive ahead and their back line couldn't catch up. And we kind of saw what turned into just a disaster for them. Now going into this game, number 3, potentially the last game of the series, potentially the last game of the season for MG Eclipse. They are going to be staying on blue side for this match.
Yeah, I think blue side's really, really nice here for the side of NG Eclipse because they can go ahead and prioritize something like the Hecarim. I expect to see Hecarim to be taken away this time around by the side of MG Eclipse if they're really serious about taking this game 3. They might take it a little bit easier just because they have that 2-0 lead. However, I'd like to see them go ahead, strip away that Hecarim, maybe even the Lulu if they want to play those assassins into that mid lane. But when it comes for MGE, you have to, again, draft pretty much that same template that you did in game number 2.
Yeah. I mean, for the side of CBT, because they will be on red, they do have to think about the other first big pans coming through. So I would expect the Hecarim, like you said, Lulu, potentially that Seraphine as well. Because if you let over a Seraphine, there's a couple of other junglers that work really well with that. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. There's a couple of options. You could just, again, try to ban out the jungler. We've seen Jin, if he's not on a comfortable pick, it does feel like he's the shot caller for this team. He's the one that really holds them together. So if he's behind tempo, the whole team just kind of doesn't really know how to coordinate Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, that really is the big issue for MGE. So, I mean, if the side of CBT just went with 3 jungle bans, I wouldn't be opposed to that because you just see the difference in play. But we have to actually get into draft to truly know what these teams are thinking. But one of the other things is like we've touched on the jungle a lot. We've touched a little bit onto the mid lane and a little bit onto the top lane, just acknowledging how far ahead Baby Girls was on that Urgot and then kind of the blunders afterwards and being caught out and kind of slowing the game down for his team because when you get picked off one by one, you don't get to make those proactive plays. But the one thing is, the one lane we didn't get to touch on is that bottom lane with the Philios Thresh. And the issue was they didn't get to play the game because of the Kali. You saw Philios, he had to wait for a lot of these fights to really start off and end before he even got an auto in.
And because he wasn't the recipient of a lot of the resources in the early game, it felt like MGE didn't want to use any of the resources on him in the late game. Like that Lulu
Mhm.
ult never went on to Aphelios.
Yep.
It was always on the
Yep.
Urgot, always on the Hecarim. And so like you've got this super weak ADC who can't do anything, who is gonna get targeted by the
Yep.
assassins, and you're still not helping him get out of this situation. It essentially, towards the end of it, became like a 5v4, 5v3 when you throw in the extra couple of picks that happened here and there. So MGE, I'm still hopeful though, because I look at that game and I look at game 1 where they actually did okay in the laning phase. And here in game 2, it feels like they except for that bot lane, which went more or less even, they won both mid and top lane. And I think that's really promising. Perhaps going into game 3, you index even more into your lanes. Try to give them some more agency, because if your late game macro is just not going to stand up, then try to turn that 6K gold lead into a 12K.
Yeah, you have to really focus more so on that win lane, win game, but at the same time, don't sacrifice too much of it. Because when we look at what happened in draft game number 2, yes, there was a lot of win lane, win game kind of style, but at the same time, the pieces all fit together very well after a certain point too. They were able to death ball because of how well those champions got to interact with each other. They just mis-executed towards the later phases of the game, and that's why it fell apart. However,
I want Jace, I want Zinzao, I want Zed, I want Draven, and I want Pyke. I want full damage Nightstar.
all right,
I don't know what you're talking about. These
I'm down for
pieces
Zed.
fitting together. If you break the other kids' toys, they don't get to use them, and you have more fun. That's how playtime works here on Summoner's Rift.
Zin Lulu, do it.
Yeah, Zin Lulu would be pretty good, actually. I really like that. Zin, I don't know. He's interesting. I'm still wondering how he's going to fit into the current meta with the new AP scalings. I haven't seen a lot of Zin floating around. A couple of teams have tried him out here and there, but it still feels like the AD might even be better. But here we are into the draft for game number 3. Teams on the same sides. The bans, I think, are going to be one of the most interesting parts here. Will it be 3 junglers? Will it be the supports?
I think MG Eclipse will probably keep very similar bans, because that was the draft that was working for, again, 80% of that game. They were ahead for most of that game. And for CBT, this is where you start changing things up, and I would say take bans much more seriously. The Seraphine still makes a lot of sense here. I'm not roasting that ban per se, but now that you've seen things besides the Wukong, like the Urgot, which hard slammed that top lane, and the Hecarim, which is of course tier 1 in pro play, which stands for good reason because of how easy he is to execute and also just scale through the game that goes beyond Udyr.
Zed, the second ban. SMG Eclipse
Still the same.
continuing. Yeah, same target bans. They just want to make sure that those specific picks aren't going to throw a wrench in the works. Now, CBT, what have you cooked up for us?
Hecarim.
Looking at the Hecarim, we're looking at that Urgot. The Lulu could be an option too, but we've already banned away the Seraphine. Might be too much to ban away more supports, because they can always just go back to the Karma if they really wanted to. There's a lot of lane equalizers.
Yeah, I would go ahead ban. So they went ahead and banned away the Hecarim. I would also next consider something like the Udyr here. And if the side of MG Eclipse decide to first pick the Olaf, you can easily counter that a lot more easily than you can something like an Udyr. So that's what they're hovering, and they go ahead and take that away. For MG Eclipse, the Kai'Sa's left available. I don't think that was really the backbreaker pick here, but if they want to play strong side bot, Kai'Sa would be the ticket to do so.
Nightstar, you're a prophet. See if they lock it in. There you go. Kai'Sa gonna be the first lock in for MG Eclipse. A lot of team fight power, a lot of scaling already locked down for themselves. And good takeaway from CBT, because that was one of the picks that was real thorn in their side last game.
Yeah, and that means for MG Eclipse, I want to see them to draft a really aggressive bot lane, being able to hard punish it. The Rel left available, they can go ahead lock that up for them. They want to go Thresh because they're comfortable with that champion. I don't think it did poorly in that previous game necessarily, because it did do very well. You saw that Rift Herald fight where they got the perfect Thresh play all the way into the back line and got a 4 or 5 man play. It was ridiculous, and it was so good. Unfortunately,
and did it matter?
They still lost that fight. But here on the flip side, CBT, they've locked in the Jinx. Great scaling AD carry, makes a lot of sense. And then they go for the Lilia, which I would say is definitely one of the better remaining junglers. Of course, you still have things like the Olaf, which Jinjin would like to play here. And I would say they go for Rel and they go for the Olaf, because that is just kind of the picks that they like to go for. But Kindred, okay.
However, Jinjin
or Nunu.
Olaf has been on the table all series, and he hasn't gone towards it yet. Even in that game 1, went towards the Volley Bear instead. So it'll be the Nunu this time. Let's see if they follow at least the other half here. And
we saw Nunu last time. I'm gonna say the Nunu wasn't great. He did get put very far behind in that Nunu game.
So
early game.
That's the asterisk that I want to point out that I mentioned earlier is up against Chad Jungies. How are we feeling Chad Jungies versus Shelfelf? Who has been more oppressive thus far?
Yeah, I mean, he got slammed so hard. I don't think it's repeatable because of how hard he got slammed. So I have much better hopes.
Had more resources than Jinjin in that game.
I have better hopes this time around for Jinjin. And then they go ahead, instead of the Rel, which I think is a better version of Nautilus, they go for budget Rel, which is Nautilus. And in response, CBT, go ahead, lock in the Lulu. Plenty of flex potential here. I expect to see it again go into that bottom side because it is their Enchanter player. But again, has the possibilities to go into the top lane if the matchup does line up really well. Something like a Gnar, you can definitely neutralize a Gnar with that pick. Into this ban phase, they go ahead, ban away their Urgot. Definitely agree with that ban, Audio. You definitely cannot understate how impactful that Urgot was with getting a lead and also kind of throwing away the lead. But impact.
Every part of the game he was involved with, good and bad. You can't say much more about it. At least his K participation wasn't up to the typical top lane standards. He was not living on the island in game number 2. They're going to ban away the Scion. Probably just some of the safe picks here. I would expect MG Eclipse to be looking for a nice matchup up there. Now CBT, they've got probably mid and top lane left, unless we see that crazy flex with the Lulu. Which one did they blind? Which one did they save for counter pick?
So for CBT, because MG Eclipse went for that Scion ban, it means that they shouldn't go ahead and ban they shouldn't go ahead and ban a mid lane champion, because there's just too many counter picks for CBT. There's the Yone, there's the Lucian, there's the Echo. For here, CBT, they go ahead, lock themselves in a top laner and save that counter pick for that mid lane counter pick at the very end. And okay, so it could be Olaf top lane. It could be Lilia into one of these solo lanes as well. Yeah. So I still think that Lulu's going into support based off of this. I don't think that changes, but Olaf solo lane, I want to lean more towards if it's a melee matchup.
Yeah, looking for something that he can just ignore that CC, and especially with all the top lane bans coming through, it does feel like it's leaning more towards a top lane, but especially blind. We'll see what the answer is going to be here for MG Eclipse. They do get the Twisted Fate for themselves, so a bit of global pressure always feels great. And one more piece of the puzzle here, hovering that Shogath.
Okay, so they
go
go
like a lot of fun Night Star if it's up against the Olaf.
Yeah, so they go Cho'Gath here. I was thinking more of a Camille matchup, while you don't have a great lane matchup into something like an Olaf. You scale, and Olaf, his health bar just doesn't matter at later points in the game once you hit 2 items onto the Camille, because Olaf doesn't get a chance to get low to use his passive. He's just gone. But here for CBT, they go back into their classic mix it up drafts, which we haven't seen on stream necessarily, but they love a lot of these flex picks, and they seal the deal off with a Sylas. And even with wherever these champions end up going into the hands, which players they get put into, you still can't lock down what lane they're going into because of the flexibility from Cry now to go elsewhere.
Yeah, and CBT, this composition, it's got a lot of damage, a lot of sustain. It's lacking in the frontline department. So MG Eclipse, I think we're in a pretty similar state to game number 1 almost, where MG can scale long enough. If they can survive this onslaught of pressure that CBT is going to have, they're going to be fine. But CBT, they've shown what they can do with these aggressive picks. Game number 2 is a bit of a slower pace from them, but I like that they're back on the edge now. They had a game that didn't look so great for them, so they're returning to what did look good.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I'm still a little bit confused by is the fact that they banned Sion and Gnar, which I would say are Cho'Gath's really, really nice matchup for Cho'Gath, because Sion doesn't have any tools against the Cho'Gath. The Gnar, yes, he has the range advantage, but if Cho'Gath is ever able to get gank assistance, you can easily slam that matchup, and it's very easy to snowball that matchup once you get ahead because of the slow and how much CC you're packed into, especially after a chem tank, assuming you go chem tank, which you should. But they go ahead and ban those counters, which is a little bit baffling. But I cannot wait to see solo lane Lilia. I love solo lane Lilia just because of how annoying she is already as jungler. And in that top lane, you just dance circles around Cho'Gath.
It'll be a fun sight to behold. Now, man, I just... CBT, it does feel like they've got a lot going for them here in the early game. If you're the side of MG Eclipse, you're the side of Jinjin. This is the player that MG Eclipse have to live and die through. What does his early stages of the game look like? What is his goal going to be?
So, I like that you asked me that, because Jinjin, what he's going to be doing is grab a buff, throw out a snowball, he's going bot lane. Grab another camp, you're going back bot lane.
Where do you go from there, Nightstar?
I don't know. Maybe you invade, and then you come back bot lane. I think MG Eclipse are going to be ganking bot lane, and you better believe Heppo, once he hits level 6, he's coming bot lane.
Yeah, there has to be action down here, because, I mean, this Kai'Sa is gonna be probably the really big crutch for the side of MG Eclipse. Again, we find ourselves in a position where they've got the front line available, but Jinjin and Baby Girls are not going to be able to carry from a position of a Cho'Gath and a Nunu. You need to get gold onto this Kai'Sa, need to get gold onto this TF, more specifically this Kai'Sa, for this composition to really be a threat.
Yeah, and for CBT here, I feel like they need to have more of a win lane kind of mentality this time around, because you have the Sylas, you have the Lilia. Lilia Olaf, if Baby Girls and Jinjin get to come out of lane phase not too unscathed, or like mostly unscathed here, not too hammered down, it's so hard for these champions to get around this very beefy front line. And that means Jinx can't get those first resets to all of a sudden snowball and get excited in these team fights. And then MG Eclipse, they can just really win a battle of attrition if they want to, or with how much damage Kai'Sa and TF could possibly have at that point, they just burst through any which way you cut it.
We're going to join these teams on a Summoner's Rift for CBT. It does feel like the game almost ends for them if they're not able to kill the front line. As long as they have enough damage to chew through Cho'Gath and chew through Nunu, they're going to have plenty of damage to chew through this backline. And I mean, you're just talking about the backline access. You've got Olaf, you've got Silas. Like, it's so easy for them to get back there to the carries. But if this top side of the map is going to be so influential for the side of CBT, the Lilia solo lane alongside the Olaf, I feel like if you pick that and it doesn't get ahead, that's just a disappointment, because they've now have such a big vulnerability in this bot side. Sure, Jinx Lulu has got a lot of wave clear and it's got some safety, but you're up against Kaisa, Nautilus, Twisted Fate. Like you called it out. Bot lane, bot lane, bot lane. They need to be able to survive a lot down there. And CBT are going to have to get back just as much, if not more, in the top side to make it worth it.
Yeah, and another drawback coming in from this CBT lineup, they don't have instantaneous hard CC. Yes, they've got a sleep that can sleep multiple members and have big impact, but they don't have that instant catch potential where you look on the flip side, there's a Nautilus hook, there's a gold card, there's a giant snowball. There are so many things that they can really use as a go button, and it's just not there for the side of CBT. So fights are a lot easier to start out on the side of MGE. So I'm very excited for this MGE's chances here. That's not a good
already
start.
Burnt CBT. I mean, they needed to invade level 1, right? With two junglers on their team, you have to go for the level 1 invade. And they do find the flash out of Jin Jin. I mean, you're not necessarily going to have a lane that you can go gank, but the Olaf now might be able to get a little bit of aggression.
Yeah, that's going to definitely feel very, very nice.
Honestly, love this posturing from CBT. They're just sitting at the entrances of the jungle. They got their ward over the red buff, and Shelfelp went back for the trinket. But it looks like the Olaf might just try to start with stealing away this blue buff, starting to put Jin Jin behind right from the start.
Yeah, and they have no defensive vision to protect that either. So they have no idea this is going on. And if they're able to get the 3 buff, that's exactly what you don't want to see when you're playing Nunu, who prides himself on making the opponent useless.
Yeah, great level 1 trade there from Heppo. And if this 3 buff does come through, now it looks like Shelfelp is just going to try to steal away as much as he can, but will most likely go from this side to his own top side just to hover for Good Sir. But at that point, he's going down bot lane, and if Jin Jin is going to be wanting to sit down there, we're looking for a counter gank. This Lilia into Cho'Gath, though, I gotta say, Nightstar, I'm not too up to date on the Lilia versus Cho'Gath matchup. Now, obviously, tons of mobility for the side of the Lilia, but how? Hold that thought. We see a hook. Level 2 advantage. Tiara's big chunk. Ignite gonna come down, leave him very low. He has to flash away, but no kill coming through. Back to the point, how easy is it going to be for this Lilia to beat the Cho'Gath?
Well, it could be a possible... Okay, I thought it was a possible dive there because of the Nunu positioning there. It looked like he was trying to go for some poke there. Hopefully he landed onto Tiaras and get him low enough to try and dive. But the Nunu deciding to go for vertical jungling here is such a brilliant call. I don't know what information gave it away, but that means that CBT, they don't get necessarily a 3 buff.
Yeah, it might have just been just awareness, knowing that the Olaf would want to play towards that top side, but it's like you said, a really good thing. However, Jin Jin's still on this scuttle. I'm interested to see if Shelfelp is going to catch wind of this. Mid lane, cry now. He gets first blood into the turrets. My God.
Yeah, that was a big blunder coming in from TF. Heppo walking not behind his minions, just doesn't know the damage coming in from that Silas, and Silas just gets an easy kill. in that 1v1. And TF not expected to beat Silas here, but dying at 4 minutes does not help those prospects.
No, it does not at all. Now, CBT, I mean, they've gotten an inch, and when you have to buy a lot of time to scale up for MGE, they need this laning phase to go fairly well for them. That 1 kill doesn't mean a whole lot. Hippo is able to teleport back into lane, and so will not miss any minions. But if he does get repeat ganked, that's where things start to get very scary.
Yeah, and you look at the map split now. Obviously, for the side of MGE, they would love to just hard camp bot side because, again, they need to just get this Kai'Sa snowballing ahead. But on the flip side, if Olaf is allowed to keep this map split, allow Cry Now to play this aggressive, and allow Good Sir to play that aggressive up top side, you'll definitely take the trade-off of winning 2 lanes over just kind of losing just a little bit bot side.
I am so surprised that they didn't go for the dive there. Just no information on the Nunu, I guess. I do want to call out, though, the CS differences between Shelfelf and Jinjin here. The Nunu never finished the full vertical jungle. He stole the blue buff, but not the Raptors or the Wolves. Shelfelf has already stolen the second Gromp away. He's gone back into the Jinjin's blue side and stolen away more camps. Currently up 3 or 4 at this point, and is going to be feeling much stronger.
Oh no.
These next couple of skirmishes. Hook does not land. Stringy Bird takes a moment to reflect on
Here's
what he's done. And then Nunu comes in to try to help clear things up. Ignite onto Just Chatting. He knows he's just dead. And Tiara should go down as well. 2 kills onto the Kai'Sa for MGE. As Shelfelf is trying to make up for it in the top side as he takes down Baby Girls. Eventually. He will fall.
Eventually, he's going to get it. I'm surprised Good Sir doesn't just secure it with a bowling ball.
Yeah.
And just try and donate that over to him. But regardless, it is going to be that kill in the top side, and they delay it, so he's not able to get back to lane fast enough.
Yeah, actually a very good delay, because if you do kill the Cho'Gath right away there, he respawns by the time that wave is about to hit the tower, and he gets a TP back for no loss. So although it seemed like a little bit of BM, that is a small move that actually got about a wave difference for Good Sir there.
Yeah, it actually denies a decent chunk of minions, and now Baby Girls is actually going for, I think, the full AP build here.
Oh, steals it!
Oh, thanks for the leash, buddy.
Blind over the wall. Great intuition there. That was pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, the nice little control ward helps out in knowing that they were on it, but obviously couldn't actually tell what HP that blue buff was. And once again, we see this map split.
Hey, Baby Girls has no flash.
Oh,
does have the beast. Oh, and he gets a trade back kill. It's a 1v3, so he is going to go down. That's the best he can do in that situation.
Yeah, and I actually think Crynow got the feast stack onto Cho'Gath afterwards, so Crynow gets himself a little bit of HP stacking for himself, which is going to feel real nice. And Jinjin isn't able to set up the gank fast enough, and now this bot lane does have knowledge of where they are. Now, Good Sir's now the jungler.
I guess so. I mean, Lilia is a jungler, just doesn't have smite this time around. Ignite being thrown down from Heppo's unsealed spellbook. It's bot lane scuffle here. Silas, careful, Cry Now. There's no consume here. And the Silas has the heals. He dodges the rupture, so he's going to be just fine. But he's testing fate here. Cho'Gath ultimate's coming up awfully soon.
Yeah, Cho'Gath ultimate coming up soon. And I mean, Cry Now, his ultimate is also relatively quick, but not as fast as something like a Cho'Gath. And he truly is tempting fates.
You want to hear the flash forward, but he misses the second chain. It does matter a lot as the Rupture and the Consume come through. Cho'Gath's feasting tonight.
Yeah, that was definitely a massive blunder, but now
Here's
here
the play in
comes
the
the
bot
ult.
side. It's the Dredge line gonna land on a Just Chatting, and the Globals are there. 2 more kills for the Kai'Sa, another double for MGC's ADC.
And CBT played a lot of this early game very, very well, and now at 9 minutes, they just don't. They forgot that TF exists, and TF just gets a free punish on that bot lane. However, this Cho'Gath should die up in this top side as he's going on a journey to try and get an execute.
Now, you might be wondering how I got myself into this situation. You see, the Silas teleported in behind him on the top side, and then he was just dead. It's a short story. And it ends with Baby Girls in a gray screen, as has been his custom so far this game. Now, this is not just any Cho'Gath, by the way, Nightstar. This is going to be full AP Cho'Gath.
Yep.
This is Comet. This is the Lost Chapter with a blasting wand.
I believe this is Everfrost. So it's like your standard mid lane Cho'Gath, but being played in this top side.
With much less survivability and a little bit more damage.
Yeah, it really comes... So this build is super reliant on you being able to get feast stacks. If you're able to kill champions nonstop with your feast, then you have enough HP to become a pseudo tank. But if that doesn't happen, you do just kind of pop like a balloon, and your CC tools aren't super reliable because they're really skill shot based. And against the comp like CBT, which have a lot of move speed and reposition capabilities, it's going to be very hard to lock down any target.
Yeah, and if we're trying to make a case for it, you've already got CC and frontline from the Nunu and the Nautilus, and no frontline on the side of CBT means, sure, if they're ahead, they're just going to run at you and probably blow you up, whether you're tanky or not. So this AP build is going to allow him to have a lot higher feast damage, and if that Olaf is running at you, Ragnarok, low defenses, you're going to have a higher chance of just straight up one-shotting him. If you're looking for just the feast damage as your main goal, Heppo takes a huge chunk of damage, but now Krynal's in a 1v3, throws the Nautilus ultimate right back at him, but he's still going to go down. Jin gets credit. Now here comes Shelf to try to get something back. Oh. The Super Mega Death Rocket leaves Heppo at a sliver of HP. As a double kill for the Olaf, another one for the Lilia, and make it a fourth onto the Cho'Gath. Axe finds him. He flashes away, but it doesn't matter. Shelf just blew this game wide open.
Shelf just puts them all onto notice right then and there. Lands multiple axes, and all of a sudden he has a triple kill. He has 5-0. Has been in absolute control of this top half of the map, and the first time he finally visits the spot side, guess what? He cashes in on a very, very juicy triple, and also another assist at the end.
No,
now,
they
Shelf could be one more.
He flashed away. He ults away. He's just everything he has, and now he's got he's got a friend to help him now. Friendship is all you need on Summoner's Rift. Will do you more than a flash or a heal ever will. Unless you E straight into the enemy Silas and get shut down. Cry Now will gladly take that gold, and the shield keeps him almost alive long enough until Baby Girls does hit that Rupture.
They can keep going. They do have Stringy Bird there to land any sort of CC, but they don't commit to it. And that was overzealous, is one way to put it. He gives up a massive shutdown here on this Olaf. I don't remember actually who claimed the big bounty, but oh right, it went on to Baby Girl. So, you know, Cho'Gath, it's clearly because of the AP build.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be, right? 4 kills out of the 9. This must just be the superior build in every way.
Exactly. If he didn't have, if he doesn't have the extra damage, just can't actually kill that Olaf. Although Chem Tank is really good.
Oh, hold up. Good sir. I mean, he's fast. He's so fast. But is he fast enough? Jin, he's got a lot of damage too. I'm gonna force Jin to just run away. I guess I should be asking, is Jin fast enough? Flash forward, he lands all the CC.
He's napping.
But the sleep is gonna buy a little bit of time. Can Baby Girls land the second rupture? No. The deer is able to prance away just in time.
Yeah, and Lilia now, at this stage, has so much move speed. Just has to get going, and then you're off to the races. Not exactly a horse race, but still very, very fast. And now MGE, they're still down in 1,500 gold, but at least they're very competitive here. They have one dragon. That means they, I would assume, give away this next dragon, although they could go for a hero steal with Jin. And the big thing is Jin, once again, on this Nunu, while he didn't get hard gapped as we saw.
Ragnarok popped as the Olaf gets caught out. Stringy Bird gonna get kill credit. And there's a second one too. MGE,
they run him over.
They found the perfect opportunity as CBT was overextended in the jungle. Have they stepped too far though? Crynow's looking for the Nautilus, who's all alone, and that 4v2 turns into a 3v2 now.
Crynow could get more.
He wants to keep it going. He lands the chains onto Heppo. Doesn't quite have the damage to finish him. He does! Oh my god, Crynow's is huge in this fight. He lives to tell the tale at the end of it all. This Silas just saved CBT from a horrible play.
Not only that, they come out so far ahead, and CBT, that fight was a little bit questionable how it started, but how it ended was truly magnificent. And for MGE, it was one of those moments where you get 2 kills really quickly and you get a little bit too ahead of yourself, Audio. You feel the high of taking those 2 kills, and you're just already down there. You're already in their base, and then you remember that you're in their base.
Well, the thing about CBT's composition is they're 4 damage dealers. Any of these members can actually solo out and kill one of the squishies. Herald has been taken. We'll see if a fight ensues. His biggest snowball ever. Tiaras is trapped in the pit with no flash and no gap closer to get over the wall.
Can they turn?
To find that kill. Can they get any more? Shelf Elf is stunned up. There's the double kill for LOL Noob. MGE starting to come back out strong. And the big benefactor of all these fights has been Kaisa. Look at her, 7, 2, and 3. She's got a Gale Force completed. She's got the upgraded Acathian Rain. Should be able to go back and finish the Collector. Now, if you are CBT and you have no other option but to just run at your carries, there's no front line. They built so incredibly easy. Jin, flash for flash for the jungle ADC. And that's what we saw in the last fight, right? Shelf Elf runs in, gets obliterated by Kaisa. But it's once LOL Noob uses his defensive abilities, there's still 3 more carries that can blow you up. You have to be so careful about what comes after that first fight. It's Crynow's. He lives in the enemy jungle, and he finds a kill on a Nunu. Will get traded back, though.
And if you're the side of MGE, you'll definitely take that trade. It is going to come at the cost of possibly an Ocean Dragon, but if they look for a fight, Noob.
Good sir, gets caught out. Lulu ultimate keeps him alive for now as Olaf takes down the ADC in a 1v1 on the other side of the fight. Now things are looking terrible for MG Eclipse. They have to run, only Baby Girl's left alive, and that means that CBT will get their second dragon.
Isa just gets too big for britches right there as they find the tag and immediately just goes in for that play, for the chance at executing the Olaf. But all right, they find something on the back end. Baby Girl's able to get that one. It's not going to be enough as now
it's going to turn into more. They land the rupture. Now Olaf doesn't have Ragnarok, can't chase that easily. Oh no.
But Nunu can.
Olaf and Jinx, they separated. Has to throw down the traps. That will stop Olaf dead in his tracks.
TFL.
We'll see if the Destiny comes through. Can he land the gold card? He's so far away. He has Ragnarok now. You can't even go on the Olaf. I don't know if Heppo wasn't in range or if he just ulted, not close enough, but that's a big cooldown down for MGE. That's a global they really would have liked to hang on to. They're still going to get the mid turret out of it, though.
Yeah, they really tried for that one. And I mean, it was just the edge of his ultimate for Heppo to get as far as he could, and unfortunately, it just wasn't far enough. Wasn't able to gap close far enough, and now Cry now is deep in enemy territory, and Lul Noob is not where he wants to be.
Yeah, he face checks the enemy mid laner, almost walks into that Jinx ultimate, goes down anyway, and now the rest of CBT has rejoined the fight. The Stylist is still perfectly healthy, and he's ripping through 1, 2, 3, 4. One by one, they fall. And Baby Girls is the last remaining one. Cry now looking for number 5, but he is pretty tanky. Shut down. That's still AP Cho'Gath. Or rather, at least one AP item. He is going full tank afterwards, but he'll take a big old bite out of the Silas and trade one back.
Yeah, at the very least, you know, Baby Girl is able to get some damage, but doesn't have exactly that much tank
just
stats.
Overstay after overstay with these guys, Nightstar.
Yeah. They're not interested in
I feel like this is the time where League of Legends just needs to forcibly reactivate the tip bar, and we just need to show Cho'Gath, hey, press B to recall. Just give him a friendly reminder. It's an option for you. I feel like a lot of the players in this game could stand to just see a couple of those tips pop up every once in a while. Hey, play with your team around Dragon.
True. Or, you know, if your team comp is a 5v5 comp, play 5v5. But now, Stringy Bird, oh, he almost falls. So close.
So close. The amount of damage on the side of CBT is staggering now that they are out to an 8,000 gold lead. They are taking what they want when they want it, and MGE just have to sit by and watch. They're going to try to do something about it here.
This is
Ragnarok into the back line. The Kaisa puts a lot of damage onto the Olaf. She dives into the back line. Looks for the assassination. Does find it. Blast cone out to safety.
Beautiful cone.
Kaisa chunked down to 100 HP, is now out of the fight. CBT, they've lost their jungler and their mid laner. They've traded just for the top laner. There's no objectives to go for, but they're still feeling pretty strong.
Yeah, and for MGE, that's a really nice capitalization. Of course, the side of CBT, they haven't quite bought yet, so that definitely was able to take advantage of that abuse window where they could find that fight and be able to win it on relatively even gold terms. And this time around as well, the Kaisa doesn't int herself in. So
no, she definitely chose a much better position to go in that time.
Much safer ultimate.
Behind the Olaf, away from the rest of the team, and close to the
it was really good.
Yeah, I did like that play, and that's what we want to see. Tempered aggression out of side of LOL Noob. Kaisa is a pretty slippery champ, especially when you throw Gale Force in, so you can't afford to go for those plays, and I want to keep bringing it up. There's no front line on the side of CBT, and a Cathian Rain, when isolated, does a buttload of damage. So the Kaisa can one-shot these members as they run in, as Ragnarok looking to do so right now. The Olaf, he's looking for Heppo, but he doesn't quite find him. Now CBT, they do trade 1-for-1 with the support, though. That's not who you want to see.
Baby Girl!
Shannon has fallen to the tank, though. That's what MGE are looking for. The rupture onto Lulu means they will get one more. And CBT, they had the Baron, but it's a power play for MG Eclipse.
And MGE find a massive fight, and now if they get Cry now, that is even more so.
Unless Cry now, it blows up the Twisted Fate. With the Cho'Gath ultimate. He's just buying time. He's stopping the wave, and he might get a little bit more stopwatch to buy more crucial seconds. Flash over the rupture. Chasing after Jinjin, doesn't quite find it. Can't hit the chains either. The CC lands this time, and that's going to be the death sentence for him.
And they get a massive capitalization because even off of losing Heppo, you will take that trade every day of the week if you get to kill that Silas. And question. Is this usually what Silas goes for? The Manamune?
Yeah,
okay.
It's a little bit of a new build. We'll talk about it in a minute. As Ragnarok burns out right as the Evercross comes through. Beautiful there, this EC. Baby Girls is going to go down, but he trades it out to the ADC once again. Now it's Lulu running for her life. We've seen this before. The Kaisa will most assuredly collect that kill as a bit out of sorts, good sir. He's going to fall too. MGE fight after fight. They brought this one back. They are back in the game now.
It doesn't stop, Audio. They just keep going at it again and again. And they're trading blow for blow. You know what? I think it's starting to slowly favor MGE more and more because the Kaisa still getting more kills. But now this Cho'Gath, he loves more of these fights because if this Cho'Gath gets one stack in each fight, then all of a sudden, a couple fights later, he just got 5k HP. How do you kill that thing?
I don't know. It's going to be pretty difficult, especially with just chatting. The one form of consistent DPS did go for the Gale Force. I would have liked to see the Kraken Slayer. You've got a Nautilus, but there's not a ton of backline access that you really need to be worried about avoiding with the Gale Force. It is going to be tough for them to kill this Cho'Gath.
Yeah, I actually would have liked to see maybe a shield bow. Just to try and deal with some of the upfront burst. Of course, they have a lot of pick potential on the side of MGE. And now they're going to be
just chatting.
This could be a fight.
Forward there. They're looking for the Nautilus. They find him. Can they get any more? Heppo survives on a quarter HP.
Look at the
Baby Girls is on the side here, but his damage members have been chunked out. They've lost their support. Their mid laner is resetting. So this is a 5v3 for the time being. 4. Because Krynow's not here. Nunu channels the ultimate over the wall, trying to be sneaky. Cho'Gath already down so low. What a shield on him, though. 3-man bunkers that could turn around the fight. MGE's looking for it now. Shut down onto the Jinx. Baby Girl does it time and time again. Can Krynow be the hero?
Lol noob.
Kaisa has so much damage, and those members are alone.
No!
He does it. How does Silas keep getting away with this? Dodges the rupture, dodges the cards, gets the heal, and finds another kill. Kill credit's going to go over to the jungler, but that was the Silas's play through and through. Krynow is a miracle worker.
Krynow absolutely working miracles here on Summoner's Rift here. It is just... It's times like these where you truly bemoan the fact that we don't get to see a replay of that, because what a play. He dips and dives, ducks and dodges, and in the end his health bar gets so low numerous times, but he keeps finding kill after kill. It's just, you cannot put this man in the grave, or at least silence him long enough, and he manages to find yet another highlight reel in this game.
Yeah, I mean, just save the VOD from this game and you can probably make your entire resume out of, like, the highlight reel clips out of it. And, I mean, Krynow, he's just been playing incredibly well. I think he knows his limits on this champion extremely well. And I want to talk about the build just briefly, because we didn't get to mention it earlier. The Mirror Mana coming through. Know too much about Silas, but he did get a very nice buff on the last patch, which drastically increased his attack speed from his passive, chaining those up after abilities. Now, the extra damage from Mirror Mana and that attack speed, I assume, is what's giving him the DPS edge, and it probably makes his overall burst pretty strong too, because you can stack up 2 of those passives, jump in with a couple of auto attacks, Jin down to 100 HP, and he's gone. Good sir is going to get credit on that one. That means CBT gets to look for the Baron now.
Yeah, and without TF being stuck in that bottom lane, they have no way. They had no reason to go ahead and check that top area around the Baron. Because if you look on their squad, they only have 1 blue trinket. It's onto that Kaisa. No one else has opted for blue trinkets, which I feel like it's a bit of a mistake because you definitely need more rather than less of those. As
looking for
Cry
Now here. They didn't catch him though. Beautiful dodge out onto the other side of the wall. He
Wait,
takes a lot of
low.
damage. Dragon's on him. He flashes the wall and heals up off of Nautilus. LOL Noob flashes to Raptors but gets hit by a strayward axe. And CBT are wiping up this fight. Janitor, good sir, is going to grab his second kill. Jinjin's here, everybody. You can start the fight now. Wait. They're all dead. 1-6, Turbo Chem Tank not fast enough. And CBT are going to go pick up their sole point here. As Cry Now is teleported to that top lane to shove that one in.
Yeah, honestly, they could have gone for the game end. But CBT decide to sit back, get themselves that third dragon for their name. And, I mean, the damage is just crazy over on the side of CBT. Stringy Bird, they're going to try and throw 3 people at this man.
Is it going to be enough? I mean, this man's come back from insane positions this game. There's 1 kill.
Woo-hoo!
He's looking for the second, but he is going to be locked down. Misses the chain. He gets it anyway. What am I saying? I don't understand anything about League of Legends if Cry Now is somehow able to get 2 kills in that 1v4. He's still a shutdown, though, going over to the Kaisa. That is good for MGE, but is it going to mean enough? CBT are running into their base. This Cho'Gath is tanky, but not against this Olaf. Heppo is going to go golden to buy a few more seconds. Actually, great flash to get him out safely. He'll get 1 more life, but 40 seconds on Cho'Gath, 15 on Nunu. CBT are ending the game right now.
And they have
get the
so
slow
many bear minions.
Can they get the damage? It's the re-engage here from MGE. Members are low, but there's lots of sustain.
Oh no, Heppo.
They got respawning members here. The Jinx has fallen. And Nunu, biggest snowball ever. Little bit too much drifting. Jinjin got excited there. And MGE, they're on the hunt. They've got Twisted Fate dealing with the minions, but they've taken both Nexus towers. They need to send another one back to deal with that, which will allow CBT to get the rest of the members out to safely.
Yeah, and while that fight was happening, because of how many minions they escorted into the base, all Baron empowered, they were able to finish off both of those Nexus towers. So at this point in the game, for CBT, you know, this is always where things get a little bit dicey. Because it doesn't come down to whether you end the game. It comes down to how you end the game. And if they choose a bit of an interesting way to try and end it, this game could end up dragging out a little bit longer.
Option 3, don't end the game. Just pause it.
Yeah.
If MGE stop playing, then CBT can never 3-0 them. It's
Put the game on hold. Put the game on hold. Yeah. I don't know what the pause is going to be for it. I would assume it's probably some sort of lag issue. That's usually kind of what these pauses ended up turn out to be. But for the side of MGE, for them to get back into the game, it really just boils down to this Kaisa positioning. If Kaisa's able to free hit, then she's going to be able to... She has so much damage that she can just 1v1 everyone except the Sylas. So you just have to go, all right, we kill everyone but Sylas.
I mean,
then kill him at the end.
Sure, but you just saw Cry Now get 2 kills at a 1v4. Like, you kill everybody but Sylas, so what? Sylas might take down your whole team. Two-man
this is it. This is it.
Looking for Kaisa. She goes golden with the stopwatch, but it gives time for Good Sir to sit right on top. Cry Now is going to do the same. The Kaisa has gotten a little bit of distance. Now is a Cho'Gath to back her up. They kill the Sylas finally, and that shutdown goes on to LOL Noob. That's huge. CBT, their wings have been clipped here. Without their Sylas, I'm not sure if they can end.
Yeah, things are going to slow down because of it. But remember, they have all the super minions streaming on in. They can just walk in with all these super minions and just go for the Nexus.
LOL Noob is level 16, 1 item away from full build. It is on to him. They have to kill the Kaisa. They're good start down to a quarter HP, and they kill the Jinx. Baby Girls has been so good at that this game. The Everfrost, that little extra damage on the ultimate, has just been able to one-shot just chatting over and over and over again. And it's the Destiny in from
Heppo.
Heppo.
Oh no, oh no.
Into a bad position. Good Sir is able to kill him.
But low
They're
noob.
looking forward. They still have the Kaisa with them, which means they can still kill these members. Silas is alive now, and he's TPing in the base. This could be it for the side of MGE. They have to kill Cry now, and CBT have to kill LOL Noob. Oh, it seems like CBT did end it all, but a bit anticlimactic. We won't get to watch the final fight as the lobby did close. But that means you know that CBT wrapped that one up pretty quickly.
CBT in the end with that Silas teleport. Yes, we didn't get to see all the nice little fireworks coming afterwards, but you know, the Silas, with how unstoppable he was, along with the Muramana being able to deal extra damage to structures, he's able to finish the game. He has a team around him as well, and that's the 3-0 for CBT in an incredibly dominant finals to really put the cherry on top of very dominant season.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think anybody expected anything else coming in. They wiped the floor with the entire regular season. I think they dropped one game in playoffs in their semifinal match, and a 3-0 here in the finals. They are certainly the best and most deserving team here in the Upsurge Collegiate Leagues. And MG Eclipse, I'm glad that we got to see at least one competitive game out of it. Honestly, like, I'm walking away if I'm MG Eclipse. I got some extra cash for bumping up from the third place to the finals match. We had at least one game where Jin looked really good and took it pretty far against CBT. Like, that's not a bad day.
Yeah, not a bad day indeed. It was truly an unfortunate end for them, but given all that has happened, they did come into the playoffs as a third seed as well. So for them to make it all the way into this final game, definitely credit goes out to them. And while they did fall short at the end, they got all the way to that finish line at the very least.
Well, all good things have to come to an end, Nightstar. And Upsurge Contenders League was a great thing. And now, unfortunately, it's over. Congratulations to CBT as your grand champions. But don't worry, gamers, there's still tons of content that Upsurge has for you. Make sure you're going to follow them on socials because they've got UPL that's starting back this week. There's Rocket League. There's Rainbow Six. There's tons of stuff to fill your time. There's honestly no reason for you to ever leave this Twitch stream because you know that something good's going to come soon. So we're going to sign off for the night. But make sure you don't touch that browser. I don't want you guys ever going anywhere. We'll see you next time.
Oh.